Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
And good morning, everybody. Adam the Bull, G. Bush, Jason Lloyd. It's the ultimate Cleveland sports show. And football season right around the corner. I'm now back on every day. The summer breaks are over. That's it.
Not me. I got another week
Jason
vacation.
still got more vacation. Where you going?
Outer Banks.
North Carolina.
Yeah, we're going to Outer Banks Sunday because Joe's induction is Saturday, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
We leave Sunday for the Outer Banks.
Are you staying in like a condo on the beach or something?
Yeah, my wife found some Airbnb, VRBO, something on the beach.
I went there once, like when my wife and I were first dating. Her parents used to go to the Outer Banks every year.
Really?
And so we went. We had a nice time.
This is our first time because I was a Marriott whore for 15 years.
Yeah.
So we stayed on Marriott points,
Right.
and we would go on beach vacations. Well, I'm kind of out of Marriott
That's
points
it.
now
You're
because
done.
I haven't traveled in a few
You
years.
was just in Jersey Shore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was a family trip. That
Oh,
was a family.
that's different, right?
Yeah, that's different.
You see how you see the levels to this? They be having whole levels. They be like, this is a different trip. You know, one day G. Bush gonna have a trip.
That was a long weekend. This is vacation.
Yeah.
My trips would be like, I'm going back to Lakewood.
Going out for dinner in Lake.
Right, yeah, that's a
G.
trip.
Bush, you going on any vacation?
Hell no.
No vacation.
No.
You're here.
No, I gotta
That's it.
I gotta pay for stuff, bro. I ain't doing nothing. I gotta pay for furniture.
I may be going to Toledo
Oh, that's exciting.
to see a Mudhens game.
That don't count.
Toledo's beautiful this time of year.
Shout out to Toledo.
Yeah. All right. We got a ton to get to today. We will do some Browns talk later in the show. Obviously, we're going to spend a lot of time in this first hour on the blockbuster trade that took place yesterday afternoon with Aaron Civale being shipped to Tampa Bay. Not surprising, but what is surprising is people trying to argue that this is not a white flag move. Now, the Guardians may still win the division because the division sucks, but clearly this was a sell move. There's no debate there.
If you're counting on Aaron, I've gone back and forth on
Yeah.
this. If you're counting on Aaron Civale to save your season, you're screwed.
Agreed.
You're screwed.
But it wasn't a trade. This trade
It's a sell trade. 100%.
It's a sell trade.
You're traded for a guy who's not going to play this year.
That's right.
For your team.
Exactly. So you traded a guy who I think you and I agree he's overachieving right
Yes.
now. Jay likes him more than we do. I've never been a huge fan. I don't think he's got high up. I think this is the best he's ever going to pitch.
Yes.
And they took advantage of that by getting a highly ranked prospect. We'll see if we don't know if the guy's ever going to be any good, but he's highly thought of and could turn out to be a really good move. But Aaron Civale, without a doubt, for the last since he's come off the injured list, has been the Guardians' best pitcher.
Yes.
Do you think it's because they did trade him to the Rays, and the Rays have a good track record of turning pitchers around, playing well, and the Rays happen to be in an American League? You think that's why people are like...
Well, I think that's definitely a part of it, because the Rays are maybe the only organization that a lot of people think is smarter than the Guardians.
Yeah.
And the last time they made a trade with the Rays was Yandy Diaz, and that didn't turn out very well.
Yeah. No.
So we'll get more into that. A lot of time in the first hour on that. But first, we got to get into what happened last night. The Guardians peed down their leg, blow a game, and then Terry Francona got a little angry in the postgame. We got to talk about this, but first, let's send it to Earl.
Yeah, man. First and foremost, thank you to everybody from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show YouTube channel who are fans who helped us reach our goal of 25,000 subscribers yesterday, late last night. Just want to say thank you to you all. You know, this show is what it is because of the fans, because of you all support. A lot of people didn't believe that we would still be here, you know, a little bit over a year later, but look at us. We're thriving. We look forward to being here for a long time. So this is just first of many small accomplishments that we hope to accomplish over our time, and, you know, just appreciate you all being there with us. Thoughts from you all?
Yeah, 15 months. We've had 25,000 people have subscribed. A lot of people are watching us consistently. And for the first, I would say 6 months we were doing this show, guys, most of the time I would run into people, and I run into fans all the time, every day. They would say, miss you on the radio, miss you on the radio, and a lot of people didn't know what I or we were doing. And now, it still happens once in a while, but now it's very rare. A lot of people, now I'm meeting people, I always ask them, Are you watching the show? Are you doing this? And now 95% are up on what I and we are doing. So it's very exciting.
Well, what's cool about this
Yeah.
is radio is radio, and we
Yeah.
all know the radio stations. So if you get a new format or whatever, it's a traditional format.
Right.
This is totally new. YouTube is totally, and I've tried same thing. I've tried to explain to people, and they're like,
Yeah.
well, what? But I absolutely believe this is the future. This is where everything's going.
100%.
So I think we were just in front of it a little bit, and now it's sort of becoming the norm for people to tune in, and now it's getting a little bit easier, I think, for people to find us and to understand how this works. It's fun, man. I've had a blast. I didn't know first day. I was not part of the launch. Y'all didn't like me enough to be part of the launch. But when I did show up, I didn't leave.
Kept showing up.
So when I first got here, I wasn't sure how it was going to go, if it would last or not.
Yeah.
And it's been great. I've really enjoyed doing it, and really enjoyed. I knew you pretty well. Didn't know you as well. I've really enjoyed getting to know you guys. Obviously, the guys behind the glass I didn't know at all, and it's been a blast. And we're not going anywhere. We're gonna be around for a while.
Absolutely not. This show is thriving. G, you've been on the show more than anybody else.
So I didn't think
more shows.
I didn't think that was going to be like that when I started.
Yeah.
I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Like everybody else had been doing a bunch of stuff. So most of the times, I'll commend them for going out and doing certain things like bringing non-traditional. I work on the radio, but I wasn't doing as much as you and Jay, and obviously Jason had been writing for a long period of time, even back when I was following him when he was in Akron. So just giving a new guy a shot, I think it was interesting because it mixed well. Everybody has their own personality. Everybody has their own take. And I don't think some of the topics we cover on this show, we are a show that is kind of a pioneer because these topics, they're not covered on mainstream media a lot. They're not really covered. You can't really cover some of it locally. And it's a different format because we all have our own opinion. Everybody has their own way they slant, this way or that way. But we all seem to have an opportunity to speak our piece. And the cool thing about it is people like each other. Like we argue all the time, but it's not like we haven't got to a point where it's like, I hate this person because we argue. Everyone just says, oh, this is cool. Hey, let's roll out.
There's a lot of good camaraderie. The show is very unique. This wasn't the plan originally, to be honest, but the fact that we do 2 straight hours of content, even when we mention our great sponsors like PCC, who we'll get to later, and all our other sponsors that have been or are a part of this show, they are part of the show. We don't take commercial breaks. In radio, there's 5, 6, 7, 8, sometimes 10-minute breaks if you include an update. People could fall asleep. Nobody's listening to those commercials, by the way, when they're in the middle of a 10-minute break. And here we give you 2 straight hours of content. And if you're a member, you get an additional 10, 15, sometimes every once in a while even 20 extra minutes. So we appreciate you all. Even though I yell and scream a lot, I really appreciate the fans, even the ones that hate us or hate me, because you're still here every day and you can get mad at me, but we appreciate you. Earl, back to you.
Yeah, all right, before I let you go crazy,
Yeah.
I basically echo everything you all just said. Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show has given me a personal opportunity to grow as a sports media personality. I got in this game 3 years ago, primarily at the radio part-time, just producing, got an opportunity to start hosting shows. I come over here and I learn what it really is to be a full-time producer and, television, so to speak, even though it's internet. But just learning my way, growing in the game, and then getting the opportunity to host on set with you all, to sharpen my skills, to get better. Iron sharpens iron, as one person better than another. And you all have helped make me better at what I do. So I appreciate everybody in this room.
Yeah, well said, Earl. Thank you. And I think we bring a ton of diversity, not only in terms of racially. We obviously, Aditi Kinkabwala, from a female standpoint, has been a big part of our show, and she's coming back with us this week.
Mary Kay's part of it in the fall.
Mary Kay is going to be a regular member in the fall as well, but also a diversity of where we've come from, because Jason had been a writer forever, still is, obviously. G and I come from radio. Jay comes from TV. Mike Polk, who's been part of the show, is comedian. So and behind the scenes too, in terms of different levels of experience. Most of the guys behind the scenes are very young. but are excellent at their jobs. They're very hardworking, and Steve's about 106. But Steve, we couldn't have made give me the finger. But now he's gonna like what I say because Steve, we couldn't have picked a better veteran to be part of the behind-the-scenes team. Steve doesn't get much airtime. He doesn't want much airtime.
Director Steve is the funniest dude.
He's hilarious.
He's the funniest dude in the
and
room.
he's not afraid to, we bust his balls or something. We bust
He is a
balls.
silent
He loves
killer.
being part of it. He's a silent killer, I agree. And he's great at his job.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
We're very lucky to have him. And so we're very lucky to have you. So there you go.
Especially when he catch Brad nodding off.
Yeah.
Having them senior moments, he'd be like,
Yeah, that's right.
I'm like, damn,
That's right.
Steve.
All right, we're getting to Civale in a few minutes, but I want to get to Francona last night. So the Guardians, first of all, we'll get to Syndergaard later in his performance, but the Guardians obviously had a lead early. They pissed it away against the Astros. In the ninth, they loaded the bases with nobody out. The score was 7-2, right? 7-2, I think, with bases loaded, nobody out.
Yes.
And Miles Straw was up. Now, you know what I feel about Miles Straw. I've talked about it a million times. But in the postgame show, Zach Meiseley, Athletic, obviously Jason and I both know. Jason certainly worked with him a long time. I know Zach very well. Love Zach. He's an excellent, one of the best writers, if not the best writer, in all of Northeast Ohio. And he questioned Francona in the postgame about not pinch hitting for Miles Straw. Let's see that interaction.
Any thoughts of hitting for Straw tonight?
No, we didn't. Who would you hit?
Fry, Freeman, Gonzalez.
Why though? I mean, we're trying to get a base runner. We're not trying to get a home run there. We're down 5 at the time. We need a base runner. You know, you can ask all you want. I don't think that was the right thing to do.
All right, first of all, Jason, I want you to jump in, but I thought Francona's answer was obnoxious. It was a completely reasonable question.
Absolutely.
Zach was 100% right. Now, if you want to say, okay, Gonzalez is not good at getting on base, it's not.
Well,
listen,
Tito latched onto the Gonzalez one.
right, not
He
the other
latched-
two guys who have been much better than him at getting on base.
Zach was just mentioning guys
Yes.
on the bench with a pulse
And I think
who know how to swing the bat.
I think in a way, to me, it struck me as Francona kind of threw who do you want me to pinch hit?
And Zach came back at him,
trying to
bang,
throw
bang, bang.
Zach off a little
Right.
bit, and once he gave him the names, he was kind of he seemed like he was, I don't know. What do you make of that whole situation?
And according to you, he likes those questions. He likes strategy questions, right?
Yeah, I mean, he wants. Yeah, Tito likes to have questions about strategy and that. And when he got one, he didn't seem to like that one very much.
No.
So, it was more than a fair question. We've talked about Miles Straw on this show. The only person we've talked about more than Amani Bates on this show is Miles Straw.
That's right.
And Straw is not good in the clutch. He's not good at the plate. He should have pinch hit for him. Tyler Freeman, I was just pulling it up to try and see.
352 on base.
Yeah, well, I'm looking with runners in scoring
Oh, I
position.
didn't look that up for him.
510 OPS, it's not great, but still, Tyler Freeman's a better hitter than Miles Straw, obviously.
Miles Straw, his on base with the bases loaded. Want to take a guess what Miles Straw's on base percentage is with the bases loaded?
Probably less than 200.
Not quite that bad, but not 222.
I was close.
I mean, that is hideous.
yes, that's
Hideous.
atrocious.
His on-base percentage, period,
That's atrocious.
is 302. It's the 23rd worst in all of baseball. I mean, and it's the worst on the Guardians.
What's funny about Tito's answer,
Yeah.
I understand what he's saying. We're not looking for a home run there
Right, sure.
because you're down 5.
Yes.
But if Miles Straw somehow leans into one and hits his first home run in 6 years, are you going to be upset?
No.
Right,
You'll
yeah.
be like,
You know
let's
what?
go.
Like that was a really silly.
That
And
was
again,
stupid.
he's latching onto the Oscar part of
Right.
that, and not the David Fry, who's come up with some really big hits
he
for this
has.
team
He
this
hates
year.
that man. He does not like Oscar Gonzalez. It is obvious. We ask ourselves what's going on with Tito and the organization. They don't like him. They just don't. It's evident. He got pissed off when he heard Oscar. He like, what? Like, he's not even in the mix for that. Like, no. Let's move along.
I think Francona at times has guys that he likes and guys that he doesn't, and that negatively affects him. It's fair to criticize even a great manager.
Yes.
We understand that Terry Francona is going to the Hall of Fame, but you can be a Hall of Famer and not play. Like, eventually, a Hall of Famer doesn't play at a Hall of Fame level. Same thing with a manager. He's not managing at a Hall of Fame level this season. I think that's pretty obvious. Now, it's not all on him, of course. The team's not that good. But he's made a lot of mistakes. And not only was his reaction ridiculous, it's ridiculous that he almost never, not only that he plays Shaw almost every day, but that he almost never pinch hits for him in those spots.
Yeah. It's baffling.
Yeah.
It's baffling that I understand. I get the defensive side of it. I know you hate hearing that part.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it at times, but in those situations, you're down 5 in the 9th inning, bases loaded, you're trying to string something together.
That's right.
It is nonsensical not to pinch hit for Miles Straw in that spot.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it.
Are we too soft on him?
Yes.
Are we,
sometimes.
I mean, because
he has earned the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you can't ever say, hey, why?
I know. There are some people that defend him at all costs, and their response will always be, well, he knows more baseball than you do. Well, then we got nothing to talk about. What? Should we never? You're never allowed to criticize? I don't understand.
But I had when I was a beat writer, I had this conversation with a number of coaches. It's like, and it's almost to that point of like, sometimes when I ask you a question, I think you get defensive because you think I genuinely want to know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to act like I know more than you. I don't, or else I would be the coach and you would be holding the pen and paper.
Right.
I truly want to know.
Right.
Like, I truly want to know, Terry, why didn't you want to pinch hit for Miles?
Right,
there?
and he did not give a good answer.
No.
And Zach wasn't trying for a gotcha moment.
No.
He wanted to know, as you say, what's the reason?
Right.
Why would David Fry and Tyler Freeman have been much better at getting on base than Miles Straw? Wouldn't you give one of those guys an opportunity there?
And Tito, and this is one of his strengths, is he's so loyal to his players.
Yes.
And that's part of the reason they love him so much, and I get it. But then in situations like this, he'll never be critical of a guy publicly, and he's never going to throw a guy under the bus. So it makes it very difficult for him then sometimes to explain himself, I think, because he doesn't want to be critical of guys. But it doesn't make any sense. It's
very
bad.
frustrating.
The Straw thing, it's like he picked a really odd hill to die on with Miles Straw.
Right.
Sometimes when I look at managers or coaches in general, as they get past that plateau where like they already know where they're going, doesn't it seem like sometimes they just do things and be like, I could do that because I could do that. I can play Miles Straw because I'm Tito, and I can do that. It just is what it is. Y'all got to deal with that. Like Greg Popovich. Nobody, like, okay, Wemby, he just got Wemby. But before, when they was taking L's, no one's going to ask him, like, okay, Pop, why are you playing this young guy versus this young guy?
Well,
and
Pop is the epitome of don't question
Yeah.
me.
Oh, yeah.
Him and Varden got into it. Joe Varden got into it during the Olympics. And
really?
It was, go back and find it. Yeah, it was good because Joe was not going to have, like, Joe didn't take that crap.
Yeah.
And he and Pop
Good.
Boom.
Good. Yeah.
I guess it wasn't the Olympics. It was a qualifier, I think, or something.
Don't ask me why. What we
All
do.
right, we want to get into obviously the Aaron Civale big trade happened yesterday. We're going to get into that in just a second because it happened after the show was over yesterday. First, let's go to Earl.
All right, fans out there, we just want to let you know that Behind the Glass will not be aired this week as Mikey McNuggets is out here traveling the country. Me and Anthony is going to put our heads together to see how we can improve what we got right now after 4 episodes and try to bring you all an even better quality podcast. We're having some fun doing it. We thank Bull G, who jumps in the chat, interact with the fans, bust our balls a little bit.
That's true.
Jason, make sure you jump in there. You can bust our balls as well. But we have a lot of fun doing it, taking them behind the glass of what we do every day and being able to share our thoughts and opinions of what's going on.
Speaking of Earl, I had a comment about Donovan Mitchell here for a second because Earl's the president of the Donovan Mitchell fan club. How about Donovan? When Max Scherzer got traded, Donovan Mitchell was like, oh, my God. Like, Donovan, are you not paying attention? It wasn't a surprise that Max Scherzer, like, if you're such a big Mets fan, which is fine.
I didn't even see that.
Is he not paying, like, did he not know Max Scherzer was going to get traded? It's been talked about for a little bit.
Verlander's about to get traded today, it sounds like.
It's bizarre to see the Mets as sellers and the Yankees as maybe standing pat.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yankees aren't going to the playoffs.
Meanwhile, the Angels, who were going to be sellers a week ago, got aggressive. The Cubs, who were going to be sellers aggressive, got not as aggressive as the Angels, but they got a little aggressive here. So it's weird. Speaking of trades, Aaron Civale yesterday traded to the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't want to screw this guy's name up. Kyle Manzardo.
Yeah.
Couldn't think of his last name. So this is the trade. Now, unlike a lot of people in the media, I'm not going to be a phony. I had never heard of Kyle Manzardo.
I've actually followed him because I'm in that psychotic fantasy baseball league, so we do minors.
I follow the minor leagues to some degree.
That's crazy.
But for whatever reason, he wasn't a guy on my radar.
Oh, no, I paid attention to him for...
Now, the book on him, he was not having a good year at AAA.
The peripheral numbers, yes. The standard historic numbers or the traditional.
Yeah.
Traditional numbers were not good.
Now, he's a hitter, right? He's a
first baseman.
He's first. He might be just a DH.
Left-handed hitting. He's probably an upgrade over Naylor at first, but
he's
not
not
by much.
He's
not
another.
that good
Not by
defense.
much.
He's another lefty.
Yes.
He's another lefty.
Now,
I heard Jonathan Mayo on this morning saying, hey, I think the guy's going to be a guy who could hit 300 and hit 25 home runs. Great. Remember, he's a prospect.
Right.
There's no such thing as a guarantee.
That's right.
According to MLB.com, he's the 37th best prospect in Major League Baseball. There's been plenty of other 37th best prospects that have sucked in the majors.
Yes.
And there's a chance this guy's going to be great. Time to tell. The bottom line on this trade is two things. Number one, the Guardians are sellers. Don't conflate it any other way. Now, does it mean the season's over? Of course it doesn't mean the season's over. Nothing has changed in the fact that this division sucks.
I mean, what time's the deadline?
6 p.m.
Okay, so they still have 6.5 hours. They could make a buy move. They could
Right.
come back and make a buy move.
But their first...
This was a sell move.
This was a complete sell move.
Yes.
But, does it decrease their chances of making the playoffs? Slightly. But they still could do it because the division's still freaking awful.
Yes.
They're not getting a wild card, but they weren't anyway.
Yes.
But they could still win this division. But don't try to pretend like this is not them selling. This guy's not going to play in the big leagues this year.
Correct. It's also them leveraging the market.
100%, which is smart.
Yes, it is. I texted this to you guys last night. This is actually the lead of the column I wrote on this last night. They could not have made this trade in April. Tampa would have hung up the phone.
Yeah.
They couldn't make this trade in May. They couldn't make it in June. Probably could have made this trade 2 weeks ago, quite frankly. This was a peak value, max value, sell at the top of the market. I likened it to, I built a house during the pandemic. They just paid cedar prices for builder's grade pine.
Right. That's right.
Remember when you tried to buy a piece of wood during the pandemic? It was $8 for a 2x4? Well, that was the Aaron Civale price. They just got $8 for a 2x4.
And it was the combination of he was pitching the best baseball of his career.
Yep.
And the market didn't have a lot of pitchers available.
Correct.
Plus, he's controllable because you get 3 postseason runs.
And there is value, and that part does sting.
Yes.
And I went kind of back and forth in the days leading up to this on Civale because he's only going to make $6 million next year.
Right.
And now, by comparison, I went, look, Martin Perez pitches for the Rangers. He's bounced around for a few different teams.
Yeah.
You probably never heard of him because he's a nobody. He's an average run-of-the-mill 500 pitcher. Had a really good year last year. All-star for the first time. I think he's like 31, 32. He signed a $20 million deal this summer, or last winter for this year. 1 year, $20 million.
And he's a Civale-esque pitcher.
He's a Civale. And he had earned $20 million. Civale's going to make $6 million. So that tells you how valuable pitching is and why it is still kind of hard to move on from him. Ultimately, though, Civale is a mid-rotation guy. He's a good number 3. He's a great number 4. He's a good number 3. He got pounded by the Yankees last year in the deciding Game 5. He has his flaws. There's no durability there. He's had a ton of injuries, and it's maddening because it's not surgery. It's not Tommy John. It's not a torn labrum. It's these little dings that have just really sort of derailed him.
And he's been wildly inconsistent from year to year.
Yes.
Even from month to month at times. I agree with you. I think Aaron Civale's a 4. I think that's what he is. You use him if you have to in the playoffs. He's not a guy you want to rely on in the playoffs. He's a perfectly fine pitcher. Obviously, at the moment, he's pitching a lot better than that. But if you look at his whole career, I think his career ERA at this point is like 3.9. His
July was sensational. He had a 1.4, I think, ERA in July. His OPS made Miles Straw look like a cleanup hitter. Teams were, I think the opponent's OPS on him was like 440 this month.
This team reminds me.
That's fantastic.
This team reminds me of the Cavs a couple of years ago in the way that they had young guys like Garland and Mobley and Jared Allen was, just 1 year. He had only been there 1 year. They had this really young squad, right? And they made the play-in, right? They lost to the Hawks, and they ended up not getting into the playoffs, right? anytime if I was managing a team, anytime that I had a bunch of young guys playing, I don't have a problem being a seller and making the playoffs, because I think that's a double whammy. Like, okay, well, great, we sold something off that we didn't think was really going to be worth much moving forward. Maybe he's inconsistent. In this case, Civale, who's been hurt as well. Now we could, get rid of him, kind of reload to see if we can find something we need. Plus, we get our young kids some experience, because guess what? They could go through a playoff run still, because the
right. They still might make the playoffs. Yes, this doesn't help them get to the playoffs, but in the end, if I would have said to you, Jason, as you kind of alluded to this, but if I would have said to you at the beginning of the season, at July 31st, is Aaron Civale more likely to be traded for a top 50 prospect or designated for assignment? You would have without a doubt said designated for assignment.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. Anybody would have. So the fact that you could get now, again, we don't know if this guy's going to pan out.
Right.
It's a lottery ticket.
I have to admit, when the trade was announced, my first thought was Jake Bauers. Like, that was my first thought. I mean, another left-handed hitting first baseman, top 50 prospect from the Rays, second-round pick. And he was an absolute disaster, and Yandy Diaz has flourished into an all-star with Tampa. Now, Manzardo, I can go back and show you all the scouting reports on Bauers, what a natural, sweet left-handed swing he had and everything else.
Same thing about this guy. Smart hitter,
And Manzardo's numbers are down. You can see there, hit 238. That's not great. But, Chris Antonetti on the call yesterday with the media said the exit velocity was still there. Batting average on balls in play, he was just unlucky on some things. So some of the deeper numbers that they really look at were right in line with what they want.
Are we a little concerned about the white trash mustache?
They're coming back, man.
They're
coming back in style.
It's a little disturbing.
And it's
low
also
weight Boggs in that.
It's also worth it. And listen, I would rather him have an outfielder. I'd rather go get an outfielder than another first baseman type, especially a left-handed hitter. Like, you just traded Nolan Jones because Josh Nader was playing first base, and
By the way, you know who the Reds' best hitter's been for the last 6 weeks? Not Ellie De La Cruz.
Will Benson.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. And
both those guys are playing really well.
So I guess I understand from the fans' perspective why you would be upset about this, because we've been talking, I've been writing about the glut on the 40-man roster for years, and they got to bundle these guys. Well, now they just traded away a valuable pitcher for another prospect.
Yeah.
So I get
Who's not on the 40-man roster.
Who's not on the 40-man. That's important. So really, they did clear a 40-man spot with this move. But and how many of these guys can you just keep adding to?
And that's the frustrating part.
Right.
They like, we've been saying this for 2 years. I feel like this is it. If you look at all these top prospects they have, the hitters, not the pitchers.
Yeah. Valero, I don't know if he's ever going to play.
They all, I think, without exception, maybe except for Bo Naylor, have less value today than they did the last 2 off seasons.
I don't know about Freeman. Freeman probably held steady.
Okay, we'll stay steady.
But Arias has dipped.
Arias' value's down.
I don't know about Rocchio. I mean, Rocchio's just had a cup of coffee.
Value's down if you're going to trade him.
Well, he's had injuries.
That doesn't mean they're not good or that they might not still draw a lot back.
I don't know if Valera's value is down or not, because
he's been terrible in AAA.
Well, he's had a lot of injuries, though.
I just find it. I'm frustrated that they're still that they've done nothing really to address this power.
Yeah.
And
Manzardo's not really, he's not a guy who's going to hit it out of the park consistently as of now.
Right.
But the one thing I wanted to add that's important, Josh Naylor has 2 years left of control.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to sign him long term or not. The longer you wait, the harder it is to get these guys.
Right.
And,
how old is he?
How old is Josh?
I think he's younger than I think.
Is he 28? 28?
I think he's probably 25.
Yeah, I think he's younger than I would think.
But he's down to 2 arbitration years. So if you don't come to terms with him, if you don't come to terms on an agreement, well, now you've got his replacement already lined up now in Manzardo, because there was really nobody.
He just turned 26 in June.
Okay.
Here's my thing with Naylor. With his body, I don't think he's going to age well.
Probably not, but he could age into a DH spot.
Right. I'm not giving him like a 7-year extension.
No.
But if I'm the Guardians, I'd like to lock him up through age 31.
Yeah.
How about 3 years, $60 million?
Well, 3 you're only buying out 1 year. You kind of have to go
3
4.
above what the 2.
Well then.
Okay, so 5 years.
Yeah.
$100 million.
if he would take that, I mean, he's
think
really
he would.
he's really had a great year.
He has.
But the closer you get now to the end, the harder it is to get these guys.
Yeah, he's playing.
Would you do that if you're the Guardians? 5 for 100 on him? Is that too much?
It might be a little bit too. I want to look at the
Guys
comps.
still really can't hit lefties too well.
Yeah, I want to look at. He's a first baseman without a ton of power.
Yeah.
I think that might be a little high, but
Yeah.
I want to look at the comps, and I haven't done that.
Is Andrew Benintendi a comp?
No. Benintendi's an outfielder had a little bit of speed at one point in his
Right,
career.
but he doesn't have a ton of power.
Not a ton of power, but
he's
I-
never had a season as good as Naylor. I don't think. I mean, Naylor's really had a very nice season.
He's had a really good year.
Major kudos to him.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
he's had a
maybe now is the
tremendous
time
year.
to leverage that into a long-term deal if you're him.
Yeah.
I mean, I would go 4 years on him. You buy out his last 2 arbitration years and buy 2 years of free agency.
4 for 72.
I think that I could live with that.
Yeah.
Ain't he? What's the name? He might. It might be Carlos Santana. Does Santana have more power than him?
I think it's in the same neck of the woods.
See,
Yeah, I think Josh. Well, Carlos was a pretty good hitter
he
in
was
his
pretty
day.
good here when he was here, but he didn't. He just didn't have power like that. He
That's-
got
it's
on
not
base.
a bad comparison. I mean, it's not a bad comparison. By the way, how massive?
That'll be my homework assignment. I'll look
yeah.
up some comps on
How
him.
massive is Yordan Alvarez? By the way.
He's a big dude.
Oh my God, that guy's a monster.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
The Astros. I'm surprised they've been so quiet. Baltimore. What is Baltimore doing? They got to get some starting pitcher.
You know what's funny is Baltimore and Cleveland were like neck and neck last year. Remember their manager was up for manager of the year,
Yeah.
and they had a great. They were like the Guardians. Those teams both came
Right.
out of nowhere last year. They were right here.
Yeah.
Baltimore's gone here and Cleveland's gone here.
Kudos. Brandon Hyde was Joe Madden's bench coach when the Cubs won the World Series.
Yeah, he's done a terrific job.
He's done an amazing job. Because if you look at that Orioles team, how many people can name? How many average fans can name a pitcher on the Orioles? You could probably name some hitters. Can an average fan name a single
Tyler
pitcher?
Wells has had a great year in the
By the way,
rotation.
they just sent him to the minors.
Why? I didn't see that. Why?
Yes, he
Pitch counts or pitching?
his peripheral numbers were not very good, and he was getting hit hard, and his walks had gone through the roof.
I totally missed that.
Right? He's been pitching really well.
Their closer is dynamite.
He's been Batista.
Yeah.
Has been absolutely great, but he's a guy that most people haven't heard of before
Right.
this year.
Right.
He wasn't a big name.
Right.
They need to add starting pitching. They got this great young lineup. By the way, the Orioles are going nowhere. They've as long as they can add a little pitching because they've got this great young lineup, and their best prospect is still not there yet.
Yeah.
Matt Holliday's son.
I know. Jackson Holiday in the
Yeah.
minors. They've got that Kerstad. Am I pronounce his name?
Yeah.
He was a top 5 pick.
Yeah, and even guys like Kowser and
Kowser's up now.
What's his name? Haven't really gotten it going yet. But obviously Rushman's fantastic.
Yeah.
And Henderson's
I mean, they
fantastic.
sucked for years. So
Yeah.
but
Well,
it seems like
it's finally come together.
they're
for them.
hitting. They hit on some of their guys.
Yeah, I love seeing the Yankees in last place.
That's fun.
I love it.
Now the question for Baltimore is, are they going to spend?
They have to.
Well, they did back in the day. They did.
They got to, and they got to go trade for a pitcher. They should trade for Verlander.
I
something.
think it sounds like Verlander might be going back to Houston, according to what Ken
I like
Rosenthal
to
was
see the
reporting.
Orioles get aggressive. I like seeing new teams in the mix. But getting back to the Civale deal, and will the Guardians do something else here in the next 6?
I think they
hours?
could. I think it's reasonable to think that they're going to do something else for, Zach wrote it last night, and it stands to reason. This is not a popular move in the clubhouse because you just traded their best pitcher and you gave them no help.
Right.
And you traded Ahmed Rosario, who was beloved in the clubhouse.
Right.
And for a guy with an ERA over 7. Now, he pitched well last night, but, Noah Syndergaard is shot.
No, the two trades they've made so far make them a worse baseball team this
Right now,
year.
yes.
Without a doubt. There's no debating that.
So you can see why the players would be
Right, because
upset
they're
with
only
that.
as bad as the division is. As much as we talk about, they're under 500. We could say they can't do anything in the playoffs. It's baseball.
Right.
If you make the playoffs, you never know. This is not the NFL or the NBA.
But I could also put $100 on 18 red.
I don't think that's equivalent.
It kind of is.
No, Jason, come on, you know that. Honestly, I know this team's not as good, but did that 2016 Indians team really have any business going to the World Series with the injuries they had?
Here's the point I would make.
Yeah.
How many? And Jay brought up the Braves being like under 500 in August and going on to win the World Series. How many teams that are 500 on August 1st go on to win the World Series?
Not many.
Not many. How many times can I put $100 on 18 and it hits? Not many.
Agreed.
How many times can somebody give us $10 for a super chat? in one show.
Go ahead.
And talk about baseball.
Hold on, G. First, before you read that, let's see what Earl has to say.
No. I was gonna say, G, we got a time in the show for that. We got a time in the show for the super chat.
Well, I was looking at it. I was like, it was running out.
Hey, eyes up here, man. Get out of there.
I was running out. I was like, $10. We gonna get to that.
Yeah.
I've now lost track.
Earl, you got to say something? You got to do something here?
Oh no, I was just
All
telling
right,
G, we got a time in the show. We're gonna do the PCC Air Force read, the super chats.
All
We got a
right, very
couple of
good.
them. So
All right, here we go.
So, yeah, but I understand why you're right. It's a long shot. We all
Yes.
know it's a long shot. I expect if the Guardians do make the playoffs, which they still certainly can, because the Twins stink too, that they will lose in the first round. However, if you're a fan, and certainly if you're in that locker room, you don't want to give up because
No.
you still feel like you have a chance.
There is nothing. I've been in the queue for Rocket Mortgage or whatever they're calling it now for NBA Finals games, and I've heard the roof blow off that place. I'm telling you, there is nothing like Progressive Field for a playoff game.
It's
It is the
amazing.
most special environment in Cleveland because we haven't
It
seen a
is.
Browns playoff game,
Yeah.
but there is nothing like October baseball. I love it.
The energy is
But you have to
amazing.
play the odds. Like you can't go all in on an inside straight draw that has an 8% chance of hitting.
Agreed.
Like-
and that's why I'm fine with what the Guardians have done.
Yeah.
This kid better pan out.
Right.
But even if it doesn't, what are you going to do? I mean, you say you want to do some research on a comp for him. I feel like I need to do a research on the sell trades. And now a lot of these trades they've made in the last few years they've done some selling and some buying in the same year.
Right.
But I want to look at all their sell trades over the last few years and see how many have panned out a few years later.
Well, if the Clevenger trade, I thought was going to be their best one, and it hasn't really been great. I mean, they've already moved on from Miller that they sent to Milwaukee. Quantrill's
Owen
been
Miller, yeah.
Owen Miller. Quantrill's been okay. Naylor's been good. Naylor's worked.
Yeah.
That's been great.
Yeah.
Arias, we still don't know, but that was like a 6-for-1.
Yeah.
And did they include someone else on? Well, Clevenger was the main piece in that.
Right.
So what's unique about this is it's a 1-for-1 because in the past they've gone the route of let's just get quantity.
Right.
And let's try and get one or two guys to hit out of this. In this one, it's a 1-for-1 straight up. It's going to be really easy to evaluate this trade in a couple years.
Yeah, I think we've seen that. The Max Scherzer trade, too, was also a 1-for-1.
Yeah.
It's interesting because teams have, in the past few years, been going for the depth of prospects instead of maybe one highly ranked one.
The Guardians do thrift shopping. My mom goes thrift shopping all the time, and I don't have the patience to do it, right? Because you go thrift shopping, you got to look through all of the stuff. You got to make sure there's not even damaged or any holes in it. And then you got to look at it and be like, okay, I need to piece this together with this little thing. And sometimes you can come out with a really nice little outfit for under like $10. You're like, wow, I can't beat this. Mm-hmm. But there's other people who are going to the same event as you, and they go right over to Macy's. They go over there. Oh, 2X, give me that one. That suit jacket, I wear 54 long. You got that? Throw that on. Those slacks, I know those slacks you wear because those are polos I always wear.
Yeah.
And guess what? You could be in and out of the store, back in your car, going home, and they got an outfit that they know they can wear. That's the thing. When you're shopping on a budget.
There is too much thrift shopping. That is no doubt about it.
Too much thrift.
Earl, go ahead.
There it is.
All right, before we move on to our second topic, man, we just want to tell you about overtime. Today at overtime, we're going to be talking about fantasy football. We're going to find some fantasy football rankings and discuss how we're going to go about our own league. Me personally, I am looking forward to taking the title from Bull. Still got that sour taste in my mouth from last year.
Bro, you
pretty
should've won
upset how
last
that
year.
thing went down. But,
I've
that's
got
what
the
we're gonna be
entire
doing.
fantasy staff at the Athletic.
I thought we were not allowed to talk about during these transitions. Is that still the case? Or are we not doing that anymore?
Well, no, these transitions, they're not going to go on the ass. So I'm just killing time in these transitions before we get to the next topic.
Never say you're killing time. Never.
Learn something else.
Yeah, don't do
so
that.
Noah Syndergaard made his
Yeah.
first start for the Cleveland Guardians yesterday. Pitched into the 6th inning. He left with an injury. I think a ball went off his calf, if I'm not mistaken. The Guardians ended up losing that game 7-3. So thoughts on Noah Syndergaard's first start as the Guardians and the Guardians losing to the Astros overall?
Yeah, he was okay.
all right.
I almost really don't care about Noah Syndergaard.
No,
at
he's
all.
shot. He's shot. I know he pitched well last night.
You know,
But
Yes, I was waiting for it. We need to get a Jason Lloyd. He's shot. He ain't got nothing left.
Jason,
I need that graphic for you.
here's the only thing I'll say about Syndergaard. It's possible, but it's irrelevant for the Guardians because he's not going to be here next year anyway.
Correct.
But it's possible he can still be a mediocre pitcher. That's possible. He's for the last 3 years he's been mediocre when he's been healthy. This year with the Dodgers he's been hideous.
Right.
I think he's still young enough that might get back to being. He's never going to get back to the guy he was early in his career when he first came up with the Mets, where he looked like he was going to be a star.
Right.
That's done.
Yep.
Could he get back to? Could he be a guy who pitches to a 4 ERA? Yeah, maybe. He might be okay for the Guardians down the stretch if he's healthy.
Win you a playoff
but he's
game.
injury prone. He's not part of the future. I don't really care that much.
I mean, if there's anything left to squeeze out of him, they can find it.
Right.
Them and the Rays, like he's in a really good spot.
Right.
He should be. I don't know. I haven't talked to him. I don't know if he's happy to be in Cleveland or not, but he should be because this is probably the one chance he's got to salvage his career.
To get another decent
contract
next year.
Yeah.
But and that in the end, the Guardians' ability to develop pitchers is why ultimately I'm completely fine with them trading Civale because, I mean, think about it. Even for this year,
I mean, no strikeouts. That's telling.
Yeah.
5 1/3, no strikeouts.
he got very lucky. There were a lot of long outs.
Yes.
But whatever. He was fine. He was all right. He looked weird in a Guardians uniform to me.
That's a slide disc too. That's a slide disc for baseball guys to be like, no strikeouts.
Zero strikeouts is a bad
When you're not missing bats, it's only a matter of time.
A lot of loud outs out there, buddy.
Right.
A lot of loud outs.
It's just leading to something bad.
Yes.
But even this year, in theory, right? If Bieber and McKenzie came back, I mean, let's hope McKenzie doesn't need Tommy John surgery. I don't know that he's going to.
Chris said yesterday.
Yeah.
I asked him. I said, I'm sorry if I missed this, but because he was talking like McKenzie's coming back. I said, has surgery been ruled out? And he basically said, you never say never, but they believe that he's going to be able to rehab through this and he'll be back in September, which surprises me a little bit.
So it's possible they have Bieber, McKenzie, Gavin Williams, and Bybee. Now, again, I know that the Guardians don't have a great chance in the playoffs because they're just not going to hit in the playoffs.
Right.
At all.
That's a pretty darn good rotation for the playoffs if healthy. Now, it's a big if.
Right.
Because Bieber's been terrible and he's been hurt.
Right.
Terrible is a little strong. He's been average.
He's been terrible before he got hurt.
Yeah,
the last
right
few
before he got hurt,
starts.
he was terrible. And McKenzie's not really pitched the entire season.
No.
But even going forward, if they're – because I'm going to assume they're going to trade Bieber this offseason. I don't think it's a guarantee because if he doesn't pitch, he might not have a ton of value this offseason.
Well, I think he will pitch in September because they want to try to establish a little bit of value. He wants the peace of mind to know he's okay.
So let's say he's traded. I mean, going into the season with the top three of rotation, Tristan McKenzie, Gavin Williams, Tanner Bybee, I feel
that's
good
pretty
about
good.
that.
That's
I
pretty
feel
good
about that.
Logan Allen is a 4.
Since when McKenzie coming back?
Well, next year.
No, I just said.
Again, we don't know for sure. But
we don't know for sure.
He was
but
saying Chris
Antonetti said
fine.
September. They think that he could be back in September. I'm a little surprised by that.
Yeah.
But
if that's the case, maybe it's a big if. I don't know. But that's a really good top three. And, maybe by next year, Espino's in the mix. Right? And maybe
probably second half.
I think Quantrill can get back to being at least a fifth starter.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Sure.
So but you know what's funny?
Yeah.
Their starting rotation from opening day
Gone.
Yeah. All 5 gone right now, temporarily.
Right.
Nobody's left.
Well, technically McKenzie wasn't on the roster.
Well,
but
yeah, I guess.
What was supposed to be.
You're right.
Bieber hurt, McKenzie hurt, Civale traded, Plesac minors, Quantrill hurt.
Yeah, and last I checked Plesac's numbers, they were dreadful. Dreadful.
Do you think these pitchers or any of the players talk about the fact that they think that they're not going to get any long-term deals with the Guardians behind closed doors?
Sure they do. I mean, some guys have, Ramirez and some of these other guys.
I mean, Clev said when he was traded, he came out and said, when you pitch for Cleveland, it's only a matter of time before you get
pitchers,
dealt.
But
even McKenzie, I would have expected McKenzie to get a deal, and
they talked about it.
I don't think that's
He's too injury prone.
They talked about it.
I don't think that's
you
coming.
know what? The more I think about it, I've changed my tune on this in the last 5 years. I think the Guardians are smart not to. I think locking up hitters in their mid to late 20s, as long as it's not too long a deal, is fine.
Yeah.
But pitchers, so few of them pitch consistently well in their 30s that it's just not worth it. And because they just continuously develop guys. You've traded so many. Like, you think about the quality of starting pitchers that they've traded in the last 5 years. From Kluber to Civale to Clevenger to Bauer. I mean, and I'm forgetting. Carrasco. And none of them have been good anywhere else. Oh, Bieber was.
Bauer was good for a year.
I'm sorry, Bauer was.
Bauer was good for a year.
Yeah, he had that great year, but that was the COVID season.
So you're saying
he was great that year.
So you're saying pitchers are the new running backs?
No, because they're still getting paid. But
pitchers are getting big money.
But I think the Guardians are wise to not spend big money. Like I heard, like I said, Jonathan Mayo of MLB.com was on with Baskin and Phelps. I put those guys on today, and I think Jeff asked, well, maybe now that Bieber's not doing that well, he's been hurt this year. Could the Guardians think about extending him of 3 years? And I'm like, why would you want to do that? If I'm the Guardians, I want nothing to do with Bieber.
I think that they moved on from an extension on Shane following the shoulder injury.
Yeah.
And that's just a hype. That's an educated guess on my part. Once he had the shoulder injury, I think they felt like they dodged a bullet.
You wonder if he wishes he would have taken whatever they offered.
I'm
because
sure.
If he doesn't bounce back next year, he ain't getting a big contract.
I know Clevenger regrets not taking it because they talked to Clevenger about an extension. And he declined it. And I told you before, I think Trevor Bauer poisoned the well on all those guys. Because Clev turned it down, Shane turned it down, and neither one of those guys made the money that Trevor made on the signing bonus and being a high first-round pick. And I think it's come back to haunt both of those guys.
No doubt.
Because they'll never get Shane will never get a contract like what the Guardians offer.
That's crazy.
But for this offseason, this team has a lot of work to do because this offense has to be rebuilt. And I know that's going to include some young players, but we got to stop with a young player in every spot.
The outfield has to be rebuilt.
Yes.
Not the infield.
Fair.
They got to figure out short. And I think
that's a big position.
I think
listen, you've got Naylor's probably your starting catcher.
Yes.
Right? Naylor's probably your starting first base / DH.
Yes. Manzardo's the other one.
Right, but we don't he's an unknown.
But he's their opening
He's in their
day.
plan, but he's in their unknown.
You think he starts opening day next year?
Unless they want to manipulate the clock, which I don't know if they will or not.
No, please.
Don't you want to have some success at AAA before you call him up? Or?
Well, he'll be back this year. And again, they're not really worried about his numbers. Like they say his exit velocity and the BABIP and all that is right where they want it to be.
At this point, you have at least one outfield, really two outfield spots.
I would like to see
two outfield spots, shortstop, and I'll say first base because I'll call Naylor a DH. Those are 4 spots where you have
but they just rebuilt first base with Manzardo.
Agreed, but you don't know if he's any good. However, I get what you're saying. They still must go add 2 veteran outfielders. You have to.
Yeah, you got to find bats somewhere.
You got to get power from those spots.
You got to get rid of Fran Milbell somehow. You have to attach him to another deal.
About to say.
If you trade Bieber in the offseason, then you make the team take and you take a lesser prospect. I don't give a shit. You got to get rid of him.
And
I've tried to make a team take Straw.
Well, but it's a lot easier to swallow Straw's contract than it is.
Dude, for the Guardians, he's averaging about $5 million a year the next few years.
Yeah, I know. But that's a lot easier for another team to absorb.
Sure, right.
Although Josh is only 1 year.
They're looking at you like
because most teams would use Straw where he could be valuable. As an eighth defensive replacement and a pinch runner.
Yeah.
That role, he's fine.
Yeah.
He's not a starting player.
I think you can carry Straw. It's $5 million.
They shouldn't have to start him because he's making $5 million.
Agree.
That's the point.
Agree.
Give me Elvira Espinosa.
I have a question.
So
I hear a lot in baseball, your power comes in your corners. First base, third base, right field, left field.
Traditionally.
We talk a lot about the outfield not being a powerful outfield, as far as their offensive output. So out of the outfielders that's there, can you say like Stephen Kwan is the best one? So ideally, would you want to move him to center field?
Yes.
And then get you 2 power hitters to play left and right?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. That's what I would do, right? I mean, I think Will Brennan is a nice player, but and if they had a better lineup around him, I'd be okay with him being.
I don't know that he's an everyday player in the major leagues.
Like let's keep Brennan and Straw as our 4th and 5th outfielders and go get 2 starters.
Straw actually would be a great utility guy because, I mean, he has experience at short. He played short for the Astros
let him
for a brief
learn
time.
the infield, too.
So he's a guy who could bounce around and play multiple
Right.
spots. And really, you can save a roster spot, maybe carry an extra pitcher or something if you have him in a utility role where you can play him all over the place.
I'm going to start looking at who, like, they need to trade a bunch of prospects for a corner outfielder who has, like, at least 2 years left to control.
It's hard to make those deals,
and then
clearly.
sign one free agent at the other corner on a guy.
But their free agents that they're going to sign are the mid-level guys like Josh Bell.
Well, they can't do that. They got to stop. They got to spend money on somebody.
Well, they're not going to spend $30 million a year on a guy.
Well,
just
you
not.
can get a good player at $20 million a year. You don't have to spend $30.
Well, they
You're not
just
gonna get they
just spent $16.5 and it blew up in their face.
And
Now
then
it's only one example.
pay costs to be the boss. You can't listen. You can't ball on the budget. At some point in time, they're gonna have to listen. I know it. Look. If your team is worth how many billion when you go sell it, you'll get your money back.
Yeah.
But you can't be pinching pennies today when you gonna get the billions and when you retire and
There's
roll
new
out.
owner supposedly has more money. So let's go.
Oh, for sure he does. But and real quick, when you talk
Yeah.
about they have to rebuild the whole thing, I don't think they're as far off as it seems. I really don't. First base, it's Manzardo and Naylor at least. Although I just tend to wonder if they would trade Naylor this offseason. It's the 2 years of control thing. That's the sweet spot when they start trading
I
guys.
wouldn't
Is
be
2 years
opposed
control.
to that, as long as it's not for minor leaguers.
And again, you're maximizing value because Josh Naylor is probably at peak value right now. But let's assume that they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
I just want to have it on the record. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they
No.
would try and trade him this offseason, especially now that they have Manzardo in place.
I got another question.
Go ahead.
So Jason just said, they spent that money on Bill and it blew up in their face. From where I sit as a fan, I can remember when they signed Nick Swisher to all that money, blew up in their face.
Michael Bourne.
They
blew
said
up in
I
their
signed,
face.
I think it was Edwin Encarnacion.
Yeah.
Encarnacion.
They signed them to that money, and they really didn't get the return on investment
That
that they
didn't
thought.
blow up in their
That wasn't that
face. That didn't blow up in their face.
He was fine. He was okay.
He was
wasn't as good
okay.
as you thought he'd be.
Right.
But I guess I get Bull's point. Just because it doesn't work, you still got to go out there and spend the money.
Sure.
Like you still got to swing at it.
Or then make 2 trades. They got enough minor leaguers if they can make 2 trades.
So I guess, here's what I would say.
Yeah.
Let's assume Josh is here next year. Manzardo and Naylor, first base DH combination. Jimenez is going to be somewhere in the middle. I tend to think he actually may be the shortstop next year, and Freeman would be the second baseman. I think this is Arias' last chance. He's got 2 months to figure out if he can hit or not. And then you have to make a decision. So Arias is going to be somewhere, and then you need something. So you've got one middle infield spot. Obviously, you have Jose at third. You have Quan in the outfield. So really, I'm with you. You need 2 outfielders and a middle infielder. That's not that bad. It's really not that bad.
Yes, but part of that is relying on 3 guys, including Bo Naylor, who haven't proven much in the big leagues.
Well, yeah.
Anything.
I'm just saying, whether or not it works, they have the spot filled.
I hear you
for now,
and I agree that they're not as far away
as it feels
as
right
it feels
now.
at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes, because you'd expect some of these guys to be better next year. Taking a step back. Although even Quan, who took the step back, he's playing much.
He'll
better.
be okay.
He's
He'll be
fine,
okay.
And
I'd like him as a center
but
fielder,
it's been
though.
a big disappointing season for Jimenez.
Yeah, it has.
He has not really had any big hot streak or.
Well, they have no choice on that one. They are
they'll
pot
lock him.
committed.
I mean, if he ends up being a bust, that's a disaster.
They're screwed.
Dunsky.
All right, Earl, what's up? What you got?
All right, so before we get to Jensen Lewis, let's take care of a couple things here. We got our community tab with the poll question of the day. Then we got a couple super chats that we're going to read. As always, when we ask the chat anything, PCC Air Force looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits. PCC Air Force is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Air Force, Eastlake, Mentor, Whitcliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 an hour and up. Plus, get full benefit packages, paid time off, sign-in bonus. Apply online today at precast.com/careers to learn more. We're going to do these super chats first. The first one came from P. Rothstein 216. Tito won the World Series with Boston. He got us there, but he lost in 7. He does not get the benefit of the doubt in Cleveland until he wins one here.
That's an awfully high bar. Win a World Series or
that's what.
I'm sure that same guy is picking the Browns to win 11 games.
Watch this. Hey, watch this. Stefanski got to win, or he's out of here.
Yeah.
And he got a Coach of the Year. Oh, by the way, we looking at JB Bickerstaff too. Hey, JB, look, Tito has a different level of standards across the board. It just is what it is. I'll be
Well,
kind
he's
of
a much more accomplished coach than the other two in this town.
Yes, he is.
I was not even close.
Yes, he is. So how many times is he going to the playoffs here?
Almost every year, but what have they not made the playoffs, Jason? Once with Francona? Twice? 1 or 2 times? I mean, they've got.
I heard the Guardians have the best record in the American League over Tito's tenure as manager of the team.
Yeah, I think that's true, or at least it was going into this year.
They've been to the World Series once, right?
Yeah.
ALCS.
The thing about baseball, unlike football and basketball, it's much harder for the best team to get to the World Series in baseball than it is for the best team to get there in the NBA and football. The nature of the sport.
Yep.
That's just the way it is. LeBron James, in a 7-game series, if he has one subpar game, you'd be surprised. Surprised. He's never going to have a game where he's useless.
Right.
Never. Impossible.
So doesn't that help baseball?
Shohei Ohtani could play in the playoffs and maybe have a bad start.
Yeah.
And maybe go 1 for 13.
Garrett Cole
It
got
happens.
hammered, didn't he, a couple years ago
Yes,
in the
he did.
playoffs?
So doesn't that help?
Max Scherzer last year.
That helps
Terrible.
Tito then, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, yes, did Tito make mistakes in that World Series? I thought he did. However, that team had zero business with those injuries going to the World Series. Zero.
Yeah.
Now, the next year, they should have gone further.
Yeah.
Because there was a better team, and they lost in the second round. And there's plenty, and there's things you could blame Tito for, but putting J.B. Bickerstaff and Kevin Stefanski in a conversation with Terry Francona is embarrassing.
That's silly.
That's embarrassing. Go ahead.
All right, second super chat, then the actually poll results. The second one is from Kenneth Y. I don't want to botch your last name. He said in the 90s they were able to find power hitters like Bell, meaning Albert Bell.
Yeah.
What has changed that they can no longer find those guys?
Well, the scouting department's turned over 150 times since then.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Tomey, Bell, and Ramirez were all homegrown. They were all drafted and developed, and that's gone. We were talking yesterday. When's the last time this organization identified, signed or drafted and developed a hitter? It was Jose, I think. And before that, I don't know, Manny?
Well, Lindor.
Well, Lindor. Yeah,
Yeah.
Lindor.
But there's not many others.
There's not many others.
No, they had, and there was a stretch there for a while where they were not drafting very well.
No.
Like-
and they were turning over their farm directors
Right.
too often, and they were missing terribly on high picks.
Also, there were steroids going on in the 90s too,
Well, yeah.
and that factored into power.
Yeah.
Like
sure.
a lot of teams had power. Now, those 90s teams didn't have the pitching that the Guardians have had
Right.
these years.
I mean,
If they had, they would have won multiple World Series.
It's a blind spot in this organization.
There's no doubt.
And
It's been a major failure.
And I don't know how you fix it. I'm
when
not
you have
sure.
a specter like Albert Bell in that team, you got to think about it. There's people who still affectionately look at that as the greatest era in Cleveland sports history. Not just Browns. Like, you got people believe that was one of the shining times
95 Indians was the best team of my life.
ever.
Most talented team of my lifetime.
I mean, you could get home runs from guys like Paul Sereno. You get home runs, and then we didn't even talk about the Richie Sexton and Brian Giles guys that hit 40.
Tomey was hitting 8th when he first came
That
up.
was crazy.
Yeah, well, listen, and the fact that those teams never won a World Series tells you how hard it is to win the World Series.
Absolutely.
Baseball is a much bigger crapshoot in the
Yeah.
playoffs
Yeah.
than in the other sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that simple. I mean, there's not a lot of, you look at the all-time great teams in football, and you rarely think about a team that didn't win a championship. Yeah, that Patriots team that went undefeated, but they won it, the year before or the year, whatever it was. They won a million others.
Right.
The fact that those Indians teams didn't win a championship, yes, it's certainly painful and hard to believe because they were so good. It's funny. Do we have Jensen?
Yeah, let me read this
Okay.
poll result. We can get Jensen in here. And then the poll question of the day was, do you agree with the Cleveland Guardians trading starting pitcher Aaron Civale? We had 1.2 thousand votes on this poll. 58% says no, 42% says
come on, guys.
yes.
Whoa, say that again? What was it again?
1,200 votes, 58% disagree with the trade, 42% like it. Right? I get that right?
They don't like it because of what it signals.
Yeah.
I get it. We'll see, in the long term. But real quick before we bring Jensen in, I saw that I was in one of these stupid Instagram video spirals, and there was a video of Mariano Rivera. He said, if you had to pick the 8 guys behind you on your team, that you couldn't pick any of your teammates. You got to pick 8 guys in the history of baseball, none that were your teammates, and you put them behind you. That's to make your team the best team. 3 of the 8 were those 90s Indians. 3 of the 8.
Really?
And he could pick from all time.
Wow.
And he took 3 guys from those Indians teams.
That team, that 95 team
That's
especially.
how, absurd.
Everyone talks about the hitting. They led the league in ERA as well.
Which is hard to believe.
They led the league in ERA in 95.
Hershiser came a little later.
All right, go ahead.
Was
Go ahead,
he?
Earl.
He was on the 95.
All right, joining us right now is former Cleveland Indians pitcher, current Cleveland Guardians analyst, Jensen Lewis. Jensen, what's up, man? Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show again.
Great to be with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Jensen, I don't know if you heard our poll results there, but 58% of the fans don't like the trade. Now, we understand that it probably has nothing to do with the prospect because probably 98% of the people that voted in that poll have never heard of that kid before. However, we get it. I mean, it's a sign. Listen, the Guardians could still win this division. It stinks. They could still possibly win it. But it is a sign that trade wasn't about trying to win this year. So do you understand the fan frustration? Do you get it? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you unpacked this on a couple of things. The short term is I don't know if we'll have a higher value for Aaron Civale considering the last couple of years, guys, that the injury history has really been prevalent. And I think the organization has been really good all the way back to when they traded Corey Kluber and even the host of starting pitchers. You go with Carrasco and Clevenger and Bauer. And knowing when to trade these guys, it seems they've nailed them at their apex. And after they deal them, it's really falling on hard times. We'll have to see here in a couple of years if that remains true for Aaron Civale. But even relievers, too. Andrew Miller, Cody Allen, a couple of the stalwarts here in Tito's tenure, and they really fell on hard times as well. So True. I think you look at it as short term, number one. Tampa Bay, anytime you trade with Tampa Bay, you always have that moment of pause, and we obviously know that with the Yandy Diaz and the Jake Bauers trade. So completely understand the fans' a little apprehension, if you will, with that. The other side of this, though, is you look at Kyle Manzardo, and I tried to get on the horn with as many people across the league yesterday and just to become a little bit more educated on this kid. And to a man, everyone loves where this guy's bat to ball is, and he fits right in with where Cleveland wants to be. It feels like the last year or two, the power has started to develop. And remember, he's 23, guys. And I don't think we can pass judgment that even though he's had the injury this year, that this is going to be someone that we're going to have to wait. I think they want him in their plans as soon as he's healthy and he can really show what he can do. So on the surface, guys, the trade, you had to trade Civale at his highest value. What does that mean moving forward for this year? I think the season could have been doomed when we got the diagnosis of Shane Bieber going to the 60-day and not being back until September 10th. I'm sorry, it is almost impossible to overcome not having Bieber, McKenzie, Cal Quantrill. If you guys remember, I know, Jason, you've been there in plenty and you can see it as well. 30-plus starts from these guys last year. They were the big reason why this team was able to find their way into the postseason. It could still hold true this year, but now you find yourself in a much more degree of difficulty because it's 3 young guys in Gavin Williams, Tanner Bybee, Logan Allen. You have some inning restrictions you're probably going to be up against here as you get to the end of August. Let's see what happens with Noah Syndergaard, even after a really nice start from him yesterday. And then how do you fill the number 5 spot? So it's not over, and I think, Bull, you kind of hit on it. The Central Division stinks. I mean, it really does, and Minnesota hasn't done anything yet to really launch themselves as a true favorite.
Jensen, I agree with everything you said. I don't hate the trade, but if you're one of the 26 guys in that clubhouse, you can't be happy with this because you are trying to make the postseason. What do you say if you're Chris Antonetti or if you're Tito? How does Tito get these guys to hold on and to buy in when they lost one of their beloved guys in Ahmed Rosario And now you just lost your best starting pitcher of the guys that are available right now for not a lot of help for this year. So how do you sell this to the guys in the clubhouse?
Yeah, Jason, I'll go back to kind of my own personal experience in back-to-back years in 2008 and 2009 when we traded CC Sabathia and Cliff Lee, and both those guys coming off their Cy Young campaigns. You want to talk about waving a white flag right in front of our face? That's what that felt like in successive seasons there. So that was really a tough blow for us to deal with. And then our heart and soul, Victor Martinez, going to Boston. That really hurt big time because he was such a leader both on and off the field. If I put myself in this locker room in present day, I don't feel that the shock value is as high trading those two aces from back when I played, but I get to where you're going as far as morale. Ahmed knowing that he was such a leader, and then also Aaron pitching as well as he has. There's two ways to go with this, and I think this is why Tito kind of mentioned, hey, let's get through Tuesday. Let's see if there's anything else that's going to be made as far as the deadline being at 6 p.m., Then we'll address it with the group probably on Wednesday before the day game when they come home. Are there more moves to be made? If they are, it feels like they're ancillary. It feels like they're around the edges. And I think they've just kind of pushed their chips to the middle and say, we feel confident in the future of our starting rotation, both here at the big league level and whoever they're going to eventually bring up, whether it's this year or at the beginning of next year.
You know, Jensen, I usually speak from a casual, a casual place. And a lot of fans are sometimes confused that, it just seems like for the Guardians, their best players are always on the block. It's like there's an imaginary ticking clock that goes like, and it's just watching the Guardians and just watching how they operate. It's almost like, okay, we see Civale, and even with Shane Bieber, it's a blow to the team that Shane Bieber was going to miss and not come out to September off the DL. But we were already shopping him. We were trying to get his trade value higher enough so we can move him. It just seems like some people, when I talk to the casual fans, they're like, it just seems like we got Gavin Williams, we got Bybee, but we know in the back of our mind we're not going to be able to keep those guys. So how does the organization kind of toe that line, and do they understand kind of the little apprehensiveness that the fans have because they're always on this like ticking clock that people have to be moved?
Yeah, I think you go look at Bieber as a case study first and foremost, and a lot of people need to realize that some of these extension talks and some of these long-term deal discussions are really held behind closed doors, and there's a reason why they don't become public so that there can be integrity for those negotiations back and forth. And this club has made overtures to Shane Bieber, and there has been an impasse for that. And part of that is on the player as well. When you're offered life-changing money and you turn it down, that's your decision, and you're allowed to have that. But also that will end up coming to the forefront here if indeed a trade is made. That remains to be seen too, because I think they're trying to get him back. And let's kind of look forward too, guys. Let's assume that Shane Bieber does come back on September 10th, and this team is still a game or two out of first place. You all of a sudden have basically a deadline deal that's going to come the last couple weeks of the season. What does his effectiveness look like? That remains to be seen as well. You hope that Cal Quantrill can get back here, and I know they're going to be very, very delicate with Tristan McKenzie because they feel he can be a top rotation arm for years to come. But I get where you're at too. I think this is why the importance of Jose Ramirez signing as team-friendly a long-term deal that he did was to not only create a domino effect with Andres Jimenez, Trevor Stephan, Emmanuel Clase, Miles Straw in there as well. Again, I know the star power is where fans are looking for. And if Gavin Williams and Tanner Bybee and heck, even Logan Allen, we look at years past when it was John Hart and Dan O'Dowd, and they locked in their young players to very team-friendly contracts, but it was also life-changing money for those guys that had a very short amount of service time. It would not surprise me if this front office goes down a similar path here, knowing that you can lock in a young core at a very early age, both in that rotation and then also with some of these young position players like Quan, like a Will Brennan, and who knows what happens here in September with some of the call-ups they might have as well.
And the Braves have certainly done that with a high degree of success in recent years, and that's a big part of the reason why they're probably the best team in baseball right now. You mentioned all those contracts. I'm happy with all those contracts except for one, We got to talk about Miles Straw. I'm always yelling and screaming about it. This is not 1978 where you could play with a center fielder that can't hit. I don't understand why he plays every day, Jen. You get no power. They've got, 11 home runs from their outfielders total? I understand maybe there's not great options at the moment, but even if it's not this year, I think next year, Miles Straw, to me, can't be an everyday player. Pinch runner, great defensive replacement, fine. I hope next year they move Quan to center and they get some legitimate corner outfielders. Do you think they should do that? Do you think they will do that?
I honestly, Bull, I'd love to see Will Brennan play center field and leave Kwani in left. It just feels like Kwani is so comfortable over there now, and really, heck, it feels like we have on Guardians Live a relay throw from him or Miles Straw that's a play of the week. And I think Will, knowing that he's got that center field instinct as well, makes a lot of sense there. They sent Oscar Gonzalez down to AAA to do damage. He did do damage, and it's perplexing why he's not getting some opportunities to make that translate at the big league level here. Perhaps we see that in the coming weeks. I hope we do. Last night, and I understand watching that game, you have David Fry, who's hit over 300, I think, with runners in scoring position, a guy that has really found the ability to be clutch in those situations. You have an opportunity with one swing of the bat to get within one run. You think that in Houston, knowing you're going to have to score 4 or 5 to win anyway, that would have been a move to go with. So I understand the frustration there. And, this is a team that needs every viable bat, every offensive weapon they can. And hopefully they're implemented here in the next couple of weeks.
Jensen, you mentioned Tristan earlier. I was on the call with Chris Antonetti yesterday, and Chris kind of surprised me a little bit. He made it sound like Tristan's coming back in September. And I guess, you're a pitcher. You would know the timeline better than anyone. Is the thought here, hey, let's give this a shot in September, and if it doesn't work, he's already next year's shot anyway if he has the surgery. If they had the surgery right away, all of next year would be shot. So is the thinking here, let's give it a shot in September, and then if he has to have surgery, he's still back for the start of 25 anyway?
Yeah, Jason, and the conversation usually goes because the player has the ultimate call. If they want to have that surgery right away, then that's up to them. They can be presented with all the information, from the team. If they want a second opinion, they can do that. But it seems as though your information lines up as well with Tristan wants to give it a go, wants to try and get back. If it's a handful of starts to push him across the finish line to get into the postseason, try and go for that. Because as you said, likely if he had the surgery right away, most of next year is gone already. So why not try and at least make one final push? I understand that from a player perspective. Whether that makes sense for the club in a long term as far as 2024 and beyond also remains to be seen. So the thinking perhaps from where Chris Antonetti and those guys understand those conversations with both Bieber and McKenzie better than any of us do is we trade Civale now because we feel like we can get, if not 2, maybe all 3 of Bieber, McKenzie, and Quantrill back at some point after the deadline. Those are our quote-unquote deadline acquisitions, and we feel that for the long-term future, it was too good of a situation to pass up, knowing Civale's injury history, and you had to strike when his value was highest. So I think we'll learn a lot more here in the next 7 to 10 days because now you're getting towards the end, or at least the ultimate point of the AAA season in which you're going to have to find games where these guys can get into game action and then be ready to roll because if they stay in contention, Cleveland does, September is going to be filled with a lot of critical contests.
Yeah. Jensen, I want to talk about the bullpen a little bit. Emmanuel Clase's got a ton of saves, but he hasn't been he's not been bad, but he's not been nearly as sharp as he was last year. Watching him, what are you seeing, and what is the difference for last year where he was, along with Edwin Diaz, one of the 2 best closers in baseball, to being still good but not as dominant? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, well, almost impossible to ask him to replicate what he did last year, and even this year, as you said, having the amount of blown saves that he has. If you kind of isolate those outings, and you look and see what really transpired, leadoff walks or a lack of command in those first couple of hitters, and again, as a former reliever, those are things that will happen throughout the portion of a season. What I look for is the velocity and the movement, particularly the late movement of the slider, it feels like he's getting back to where he was in the stretch run of last year. I think if you see him a little bit more on the corners now, especially with a cut fastball, even backdoor to lefties, there's a couple of weapons that he deployed August and September last year. Even the high fastball, high cutter to change eye level to get back to the slider. It feels like he's on that path. It's just the guys in front of him, and Trevor Stephan has been better, but for the life of me, I feel like in a situation last night, boy, we could have used James Karinchak in that sixth inning to be able to come in for some possible swing and miss. I realize there's been some struggles there with Eli, with Sam Hentges. It hasn't been the same shutdown group last year, but it feels like you still got one of your best bullets in AAA, and why not bring him in, knowing you've got some really good offenses you're going to face, particularly in Houston and also with Toronto at the end of that homestand next week.
You think about the mental game, and obviously you would know this better than anybody, the mental game and the pressure of being a relief pitcher, because for the most part when you do well, nobody talks about it, and when you do poorly, we do. You think about like Karinchak, right? He's got all the tools, but it seems like from an outsider's perspective, he gets in his head too much, and that screws him up. Kelly last night, he has the great at-bat where he strikes out Tucker, and then he can't throw the ball over the plate. I would assume he's going to go down to Columbus today. I don't know. What's going through his mind? Is he freaking out in his head as that's happening? And is the mental part the thing that Karinchak can't get over the hump on?
Yeah, I'll start with Kelly because when you kind of get in that first couple of scenarios in your big league tenure where you're on the road and you're facing quality hitters in a tight situation, the inning can speed up on you, and perhaps that's what happened with him last night. I think the arsenal is there, but maybe a little bit more in kind of that bridge situation that would allow him, whether it's behind in the game or in a spot to try and eat up some innings. With Karinchak, it feels like he's shown everything that needs to be shown, whether that's controlling the running game, whether that's being able to showcase the breaking ball again. To me, you can do a lot worse by not having him up here. And I think that's kind of where the state of this pen is. You need every viable swing and miss arm. Yeah. As I said, especially with the opponents you're going to be facing here. These are critical junctures, guys. You had every opportunity to win that game and shut it down last night. Just wish that a guy like Karinchak, who has that swing and miss ability in the big-time situations, and most importantly, the heartbeat and the experience to be able to draw on and go out there and get it done.
Jensen, you spoke on it a little bit earlier. You said, with the young guys, Allen, Bybee, and Williams, there's a chance they could get shut down. If they do make the playoffs, is there a chance that, some of your three best pitchers, one or two of them, depending on how many innings they have accumulated by then, could possibly be shut down even in a playoff scenario?
I think it's already been implemented, as far as where they think these guys could go. You would expect it's not necessarily the pitch count, it's more the inning count. And you saw that sort of with Gavin in his last start, didn't go beyond the fifth inning. I think you'll see an intriguing use of those three guys and where they are stress-wise going through August and what you hope is a full month of September. I haven't heard anything about them being shut down at all. I think they take it kind of turn by turn and see where it ends up. I think they really want to get through 6 p.m. tonight to understand what their roster looks like. You still got some reinforcements down there in AAA, of course, Cody Morris, Hunter Gaddis. Heck, we might even see Joey Cantillo the way he's been throwing the ball. So there's plenty of length, if you will. It's just a matter of roster construction now and how you want to cultivate the back end of your bullpen, because indeed, if it is, hey, we only can throw Gavin, maybe 5 innings, we can only throw Tanner 5 innings, you got to have a guy you can go to every couple of days outside of Xavier Curry that can help bridge the gap while still being effective and trying to win those games as well.
Jensen, how do you see shortstop playing out? And is there any chance he's already here in Andres Jimenez? That's probably a move that would happen next year, but is there any chance they would move Jimenez to short and maybe Freeman is the new second base? I don't know. I'm just spitballing. Or is it still going to be Arias, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of questions to be answered, Jason, for those guys initially, but Brian Rocchio down there, who has had a sensational season, is going to factor into this conversation. I wonder if this is kind of your audition here in August and September and hopefully October for both those guys. Whether Jimenez moves over or not, I think they're comfortable leaving him at second base, knowing if Rocchio is the guy in the future, that they leave Rocchio at short, Jimenez at second. That's a really, really outstanding defensive double play combination. Again, Rocchio not going to hit for the power that perhaps Gabriel Arias could. I think Freeman deserves a bit more of an opportunity, sustained, not just one start every series. But I'm fascinated to see if those guys end up playing well, if both of them do. And then this front office has a decision at the winter meetings to possibly package them in a trade that might see one or both of them go.
Jensen, last thing. Trade deadline obviously today at 6 o'clock, right? In terms of other teams, we saw the big trade with Max Scherzer. We've seen two teams like the Angels and Cubs who we thought were out of it, and maybe, but they've been aggressive here this last week. Maybe Verlander gets traded. To me, one of the biggest storylines today, and I think the Tigers probably trade a couple of their pitchers, will the Orioles, who have been so bad and are having a magnificent season, they've got to get starting pitching. That's, to me, one of the biggest things I'm looking at today. And will the Yankees do anything? I hope they don't, because I want them to finish freaking dead last. But do you think the Orioles will do anything? Do you expect the Yankees to make a move? Do you think Verlander gets done? Any other big deals today?
Yeah, the Verlander one is intriguing just because Baltimore obviously has the prospect capital, but are the Mets willing to really wave the white flag not only for this year, but that means they're in real dire straits for next year. I think Eduardo Rodriguez is the big name to watch early. I would put the Cincinnati Reds in contention possibly for him as well. I know the Dodgers have really been hot on his tail, but I'm with you, Bo. I mean, Baltimore has to find at least a top flight arm, if not Verlander, someone like Rodriguez that can really get them some quality innings, and if need be, start a game one of a postseason series.
I'll tell you, if I know we got to go. I know we got to go, Earl. But if I'm the Orioles, and I know it would take a lot to get him, but Mitch Keller is come into his own this year. If I'm the Orioles, because they have a thin starting rotation, their bullpen's great. I'd go. It cost a lot, but I'd go get Keller and Bednar. If you had Bednar, Cano, and what's his name?
Tyler Wells.
No, their closer.
Bautista.
Oh.
Yeah, Bautista. I couldn't think of his name. If you had those three in the back of the pen and you added a young Mitch Keller who's really good, I know, they'd have to give up a boatload to get those guys. But I think that'd be huge for the Orioles. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we'll see. Should be fun.
Yeah, that's a full-on Texas Ranger. We're all in, and I would love to see it because you guys know the AL is wide open.
It is.
And I think Baltimore, with the way they're playing, and as you said, Bautista's an AL Cy Young candidate the way he's pitched, and that 5-out save last night, dear Lord, he's been fun to watch.
Yeah, let's hope the Yankees keep losing. Thanks, Jensen. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon. There you go. Did you guys cut Jensen off? I mean,
how dare you?
Damn. Guy's getting violent. You guys are worked up back there.
There he is.
Yeah, there he is. Jensen, we'll see you later. Thanks. What happened? Earl's very excited about some dopey poll.
No, it's not that. We got a full rundown. We got to keep moving. Don't forget to subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Don't forget to follow, ring the bell. Again, man, we appreciate getting to 25,000 subscribers. Let's get to 26,000. We definitely appreciate that.
He's like the guard from Shawshank.
Yeah, he ain't playing. Listen,
I got a schedule to keep.
Actually, I'm the same way, man.
Same way on the radio.
That is inappropriate.
Let's get it going.
Let's go. So what is this poll? What is it?
Before we talk about the 32
all we do with the Browns is talk
wait, boo. You cut me off, man. I'm trying to talk.
Go ahead.
Before we get to the 32 and 32 with something that we're doing every week, every day, counting down to the first game of the season.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Browns put a poll up there selecting a new midfield logo as they did last year. Steve, take that. So that's what it is. We're running it back for round 2. Your favorite design will be front and center, and then we have the tag board that's showing the options. Here they are right here.
God.
Not the stupid elf.
Again with the...
Just give me the helmet. Just give me the helmet.
Can we stop? See, this is why the Browns have been a loser franchise.
No.
They're obsessed with polls about logos, uniforms. How about you win some freaking games?
No. See, for the older...
We got their dopey son-in-laws out there trying to be funny on Twitter.
You know what? This is why y'all don't understand. The internet is different from the real world. Y'all keep not getting it. When y'all be putting the polls up and the Guardians be taking L's, this is why they take L's. The
Browns put a stupid elf up there?
Yes, no, public sentiment counts for something. Yeah. When people get to participate in their own fate, they feel they're invested in it. So when it comes to the wins and losses, they be like, well, they did lose, but I did get to vote for that dog.
Well, the Guardians might lose the polls, but they win a hell of a lot more games on the field than the Browns.
Nah, the Guardians may win them polls, but they ain't got no money. And Rich and Jimmy has them got all the bags.
They got plenty of money and they don't spend it. Jimmy's spending is highly overrated.
Hey, his polls may be too, but I love it. First of all, this is why they win the off season. They understand marketing. They said, all right, well let's let them create their own logo.
How about you win the season, win the regular season just one time?
And that's the thing. It's like yesterday, Earl tweets at me and some. It was Bucky Brooks or whatever saying the Browns are right there with the Bengals. Okay, here's the la land that Browns fans live in, right?
Here we go.
And this doesn't
tell us how you feel.
This doesn't mean that the Browns can't be as good as the Bengals this year.
All right.
They can be. Mm-hmm. But the point is, going into this year, it's unreasonable. Like you have to predict what's most likely to happen. Not I'm a fan, so I'm going to pick the extreme scenario. Okay, one team has proven something, and one team has proven nothing. That's a fact. This has nothing to do with me being a fan or not a fan. See, unlike most people, I can leave my fandom out of predictions for teams. Browns fans, a certain base of them, like the homers, like Earl, like, what's his name, Nick Carnes, like Cam from Canada. These guys live in La Land, as if the Browns
I do not live in La Land. That's cap, boo.
You guys are in La Land with this. The Browns are this, and the Browns ain't shit until they prove something. Here's what you got to prove it. I'm sick of giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Here's what it is. Here's what it is.
Get them, Z.
Here's what it is. If y'all want to count the 6 games that Deshaun Watson played as the end-all, be-all,
who's counting that?
Listen, a lot of people.
Count the last 24 years.
Hold on.
Let's count the last 24 years.
Hey, listen. 24 years is 24 years. You can go from worst to first in 1 year.
Sure.
And let's
can it happen before we guarantee?
Hold on. I didn't mind guaranteeing nothing. Yeah. Let's not act like the Bengals didn't have bags over their face a couple years ago.
Of course they did.
So here's the thing.
But you know what?
Hold on.
When the Bengals went to the when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl with Burrow for the first time, before that season, I wasn't picking them to win 10 games.
But here's the thing.
I picked them to win 5 games.
But guess what? Joe Burrow proved that one person can make a difference. Did he not?
Correct.
There you go.
But Deshaun Watson hasn't.
Whoa.
Burrow proved it, and then you knew it.
So prior to Deshaun Watson's 6 games, was he not proving it? He wasn't cold? He wasn't nice? He wasn't a top 5 QB?
He was.
Oh, okay, so we've seen it.
But he's got to prove it again here.
So if y'all want him to prove it again after the 6 games, that's fine. But to Deshaun Watson's credit, his numbers say it. Can we put the 115 up at 41? Can we put that real quick? Tag board.
Now, wait a minute. Gee, I'm with you. I'm with the Deshaun trade. I was with it all along. The fact is, he's won 1 playoff game.
Hey, but you got to understand, there's more than that involved in a team sport.
But you just said, he's proven it. Has he? He's won 1 playoff game.
Listen,
and I'm for him being here.
I get that. He won 1 playoff game, but there's a lot of quarterbacks that we anoint. Justin Herbert. We anoint these dudes, and they ain't won nothing. Justin Herbert's on every top 5 list. How many playoff wins does Josh Allen have? Couple? 2?
More than Deshaun Watson.
He has, 2?
I don't know off the top of my head. But I know it's more than 1.
He ain't been in no AFC championships. Where did he go? No, he hasn't.
AFC championship? They were in it
3 years ago.
It was in it 2 or 3 years ago.
Did they go 2 or 3 years ago to AFC?
It was 3 years
ago. Before the Bengals.
I thought they lost to the Chiefs in the 2nd round.
Well, that game was the 2nd round.
Yeah, didn't they?
That bonkers playoff game.
Here's my thing.
Josh Allen ain't been there.
The point is,
point
is, Josh Allen and Justin Herbert played great football last year, did they not?
Okay, so we are living in the 6 game with 6 games, right?
Here's the thing. No, I'm not living in the 6 games because I've said consistently that I think Deshaun Watson is going to be great.
Okay.
But you're living in this. We get mad every time somebody says Deshaun Watson's got something to prove. Or mad every time when a national reporter says maybe the Browns won't be that good. The Browns have a lot to prove. First of all, who cares if people are predicting that the Browns don't get any benefit of the doubt? Do the Browns deserve benefit of the doubt?
But what I'm looking at,
hold on, 3 years ago.
Hold on, no, what I'm looking at is we talk about 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm looking at today.
I'm looking at today. Do they deserve benefit of the doubt going into the season?
I'm just analyzing what they have. I'm looking at player for player. If I look at player for player,
accomplished? Nothing.
Every year is a different year.
I get it.
So if I'm looking at it like this, I can look at it and say, look, the Browns have traditionally been good.
Yeah.
However, I'm looking at their quarterback. I'm looking at their running back. I'm looking at their defensive end. I'm looking at what their defensive coordinator has traditionally done. And I'm not saying that they're not going to the Super Bowl. My thing is this. If you look at the Cleveland Browns and you look at their roster and you're saying 4, 5, 6 wins, obviously.
Nobody's saying that.
I've seen a lot of people say that.
A lot of people. 4, 5, 6 wins. I don't find that. Show me one person that picked win 4, 5, 6 games. There's probably 2 or 3 people who care.
They pick them.
Nobody here. Who here is picking them to win 4, 5, 6 games?
There's people picking them to come in last place in the division. There are people that saying that
that's a big difference between 4 wins. That's not impossible. They finished last in the division last year.
Okay, that's great. They finished last year, but
you
you're
don't
telling
think
me
it's possible they can finish last in the division?
It's anything is possible.
They can finish 8 and 9.
But if you're telling me the Steelers got a better roster than the Browns, people are crazy.
But the team with the better roster doesn't always finish higher. Did the Steelers have a better roster than the Browns last year?
No, they didn't.
But they finished ahead of the Browns last year.
But their quarterback did not play the whole year.
I understand that, but they still had a better roster. Even with Jacoby Brissett, they had a better roster.
Well, listen, Jacoby Brissett, and when you talk about Kenny Pickett, and everybody know they punted on that season. We know they did.
I said that in September, and everyone screamed at me.
They punted on it.
Listen to me. All I'm saying is, before we anoint them, they've got to prove something. That's it. Nobody's saying they can't.
Who anointed them?
Well, we can't get mad every time somebody makes a bad. Who cares if Dan Patrick or Colin Cowherd picked the Browns to win 6 games. Who gives a shit? You can't blame them for that.
No. I got mad at Dan Patrick because Dan Patrick and a lot of national media dudes be doing this thing. Oh my gosh, he's a creep. Browns are unlikable because of one person on their team.
But who cares?
But I care.
He is a creep.
No, a lot of people care.
But he is a creep.
But
who cares?
Here's who care. 20,000 people who watch the blog care. And guess what? 1,000 comments care. They were like, hold on.
I'm not gonna lie to you, boy. I care too. And I'm gonna tell you something. Representation matters. Like, first of all, we got here off a poll. Okay. Basically, I think what G is saying is it's not the fact that the Browns have to prove it, Deshaun Watson has to prove it. It's just that it's always this pessimism when it comes to Deshaun Watson. It's like, damn, everybody you talk to, nobody's optimistic that he can do it.
Who in Cleveland is not optimistic?
No, I'm just you saying who cares? I'm just telling you, people care.
I'm giving you
people care.
What do you mean? People care about what?
People care about the conversation being had. People care about this constant feel of it's always beating up on the Browns.
So when I say
here's an example, bull. Here's an example. We throw the poll up. The first thing you say is the Browns kill me with these polls. I tweet you something yesterday that Bucky Brooks said, friend of the show, shout out to him.
Yeah.
And you didn't even respond to it. It's like this slanted view towards the Browns.
The reason I didn't respond on Twitter is because I knew we were going to talk about it today. Because it's a nuanced conversation that can't be had on Twitter.
But things like these polls, for example, right? They're fun. They're interacting with the fans. They mean no harm for it. It's not nothing to blow them out the water for.
I'm saying the Browns as an organization care way too much about shit like that than getting the right team on the field.
Well, no.
That's my point.
You could do 2 things at once.
Major and the minor.
You could do 2 things at once. Here's my problem.
They're not doing the other thing. They haven't.
Here's the issue. When you talk about the Cleveland Browns, it is not about what the Cleveland Browns are going to do in the field. It's about whether Deshaun Watson did what, and I don't like that fact. Dan Patrick talked about not putting the Cleveland Browns on TV because of Deshaun Watson. He says, I like Nick Chubb, but I'm going to tell you, they're not unlikable because he's on their team. But what I'm saying,
that is the case for a lot of people.
If you let me finish my conversation, if you let me get my money off, we can get to an understanding. That is the case for some people. My problem is this, and I've always brought it up. Don't be heavy-handed on Deshaun Watson and use words like creeps. When your buddies get on the TV and laugh and joke about owners doing the same thing. I've told you that. But hold on. You keep cutting me off. I would like to finish my...
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to finish.
Yeah.
If you are going to be on TV and you stand on something and you standing on principle, morals, whatever you're going to stand on, and you using this soapbox to say, this is absolutely incorrect. But then when you get people on TV to talk about the owners who cutting your paychecks, you got a whole different other demeanor. You laughing, ha, ha, ha.
Who is the who?
Robert Kraft.
I can't. No. But who are you talking?
I'm talking about Rich Eisen did it. Dan Patrick did it.
Okay, what did Rich Eisen do specifically?
I got a whole video out.
I'll watch your video. Okay, I haven't seen it yet. But here's the thing. I can only speak for myself. What Rich Eisen does, I don't give a shit. See, when I say who gives a shit, I'm just saying I don't give a shit what Rich Eisen says.
Okay, well, yeah.
Yes, there are people who care about that. I'm saying let's not worry about that. That's my feeling on it.
Right.
I don't think Earl should care whether Dan Patrick's shitting on the Browns. If the Browns win, it'll take care of itself.
But you can't tell that
until you win.
But you can't say that about a man's team. Like that's what fandom is about.
The Browns deserve criticism.
Not when it comes to putting. Listen,
I found the Steelers unlikable because of Ben Roethlisberger. So why can't other people find the Browns unlikable because of Deshaun Watson?
Here's the issue. You can find the Steelers unlikable about that, but guess what?
Yeah.
Steelers stayed on TV. Ben Roethlisberger stayed getting endorsements. Big Ben, when it comes to the Cleveland Browns, there's a lot of people that feel it's an easy target.
Because they won.
They're an easy target.
They won.
But they're an easy target.
But if the Browns win, they'll be on TV. Dan Patrick doesn't control the TV network.
Here's what we're saying.
How many national TV games are the Browns on this year?
What, 2?
2, I think.
They won 7 games last year.
They got a Monday night game and the Thursday.
But
right?
last year, how many were they on? Like 4.
But we're not specifically talking about that. What we saying, Bull, is when you're a fan of a team, right? And you watch your team and you root for your team, people feel that it's ludicrous to use one person's mishaps to blanket a whole team of people. And Nick Chubb is one of the best dudes in the league. Joe Bitonio just won Man of the Year. You can't sit up here and be blanket statement saying that these guys are unlikable because of one person. And at the end of the day, that's your opinion.
But it's his opinion, so he can say it.
But guess what? I got an opinion too, and 20,000 people said, yeah, we agree with you, G. Bush.
Right, but there's probably a lot of people in other fan bases that feel the same way he does.
But so that's why we ride for who we ride for.
I get
the
it.
Same way you ride for your squad, you gonna ride for them.
But I didn't. When the Bengals have had shitty players over the year that I didn't like, I wasn't defending and call. I wasn't trying. Listen, I'm totally good with Deshaun Watson being on the team. I think he's gonna have success this year. That doesn't mean I'm going to defend what he did off the field, just like I wouldn't defend what other players did on my team off the field.
But here's the thing.
Just like I didn't defend Ben Roethlisberger off the field. And we can't just blanketly say owners like the Robert Kraft, like Daniel Snyder's a real scumbag. He's a total piece of shit, and he got kicked out of the league. Okay.
Okay.
Owners, what Robert Kraft did going to a hooker is not the same thing as what Deshaun Watson did.
Well, that's not true. That's not true.
Going to a hooker and what Deshaun Watson's accused of is the same thing?
Listen, he was accused,
yes,
and it was on tape.
Yeah.
And on top of that, even in the Players Association, owners are held to a higher standard. So it's not the same thing. He's a player, he's an owner. Here's what I'm saying.
What is he accused of? Going to a hooker.
Prostitution.
But that's not the same as being accused of sexual assault.
And so it was alleged. He was not indicted.
Right.
He had 2 grand juries in Texas said no. And on top of it, the thing that this...
No, but that's not what we're arguing here. You just said it's the same thing.
What I'm saying...
Now you're trying to relitigate the case.
I'm not relitigating the case. What I'm saying is Deshaun Watson is sitting here telling y'all, and how this blew up was the fact that he said there's a narrative put out there by the media.
Yeah.
Everybody in the media jumped out there and said, oh, he's blaming the media for what he did. He was not blaming the media.
Yes, he was.
He said that there were issues.
Was not, Bull.
He said there was issues that the media never took a hold of, right? And one of those issues, as I did a video on this, multiple people that were in that litigation had things wrong, like, hey, I told people in my family I just wanted money. I went to his house 3, 4, 5 more times after that.
Those things were brought up.
No, they were not.
Then how'd you know about it?
Because I looked it up and did a video and it has 63,000 views.
Gee, you're telling me nobody at all brought those things up?
In this city?
You found...
In this city.
I don't know. I'm not listening to everybody all the time.
They didn't do it on no afternoon shows. They didn't do it on morning shows. They did none of that.
Gee, I don't even... at this point, do you really believe he did nothing wrong? Do we want to go down that road again?
What we're saying is, if you don't...
It's okay to just say we don't care. It's okay to say we don't care.
No, it's not.
There's no way... There's not...
But is there any...
There can't possibly be a conspiracy with 23 different clients. It's impossible.
But nobody stepped up and said 6 or 7 of them could be lying. Nobody said that.
That's not true. because we said on this show, I don't know how many times I said on this show that there's probably a gray area in this whole situation, and I specifically said, yeah, there's probably a couple of them that have taken advantage of the situation.
At the end of the day, if we're going to sit here and eviscerate people based on that, the bottom line
How has he been eviscerated? He's made a ton of money.
No.
How is he being negatively affected?
Let me ask this question because I like the word creep was thrown in this, right?
Yes.
And I'm a part of the media too. Let me just say this.
Yes.
When I cover players, let's say we're covering a disgruntled player, somebody who has gotten into some trouble, or somebody that you like necessarily like. I just feel like there's a way that you can say that without being disrespectful, and this is why I think it's disrespectful. When somebody call you a creep or anything else, I feel like I'm not going to say nothing on this mic that I can't say to somebody's face. And I just wonder if some people who got these opinions of Deshaun Watson, could they stand on that and say the exact same things to this man's face? And if you can't, then you shouldn't feel that comfortable getting on TV or on radio saying it. That's all I feel.
Okay. Well, I think Deshaun Watson's a creep. If you don't think I would say that to him, I mean, yeah.
I'm not saying you. I'm
it
just
would be
saying
kind of awkward if I said it to him, no doubt. But if he brought up, if Deshaun Watson walked up to me and said, hey, why'd you call me a creep? I said, well, I find it hard to believe that 23 different women all somehow were able to put a conspiracy together and it never came out that they were all plotting together.
And here's what I'm going to say. He would say to you,
yeah,
in our country, we have jurors. We have a process. And 12 to 13 different people, 26 two times, a group of your peers said, we don't find that there's anything that we can bring criminally. If he told you that, what would you say?
You know better than everybody that the criminal justice system is flawed, number one.
And we also know the criminal justice system is slanted to one group of people or another.
100%. 100%.
Gary, do you think Deshaun did anything wrong?
Yes, he did stuff wrong.
Okay, that's it. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But here's the thing.
I don't know if I've ever heard you say that, actually.
Yes. Yeah, I said
That's it.
He's done things. My problem is this. If you want to get to here and we talking about football, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to sit up here and take another year relitigating something. If you want to talk about football, it's the first day of camp. We understand what it is.
You're the one who brought it up. We weren't even going down that road.
No. What I'm saying is you said I don't care what Dan Patrick said. I said I care what he said.
Yeah.
And he brought it up. And there are other people brought it up.
Okay.
I'm responding to that.
But it's not surprising that a national guy would talk about Deshaun Watson and be like, the guy's a creep. It's just not surprising to me.
Look, at the end of the day,
yeah,
everybody got their own platform. Everybody say what they want to. To some people, that's acceptable. To other people, I find it offensive and I don't like it. So if Dan Patrick has a platform and wants to call creeps, I'll just show him what he said about another group of people that he had no problem with when he was laughing about it.
Then that's fine. Now, listen, again,
really?
I don't think it's a fair comparison with Robert Kraft, in my opinion, because going to a hooker is not the same as
at the end. Is that creepy?
Yes.
Okay. Well, he did not call Robert Kraft a creep. So I would like him to keep those words from Deshaun Watson, right?
And obviously there's biases, and you know where I stand on all this.
I give you that.
But Robert, and yes, I do think Robert Kraft is a creep. Yes.
Okay.
I certainly think Daniel Snyder's a creep.
Okay.
I certainly think Ben Roethlisberger's a creep.
So
I certainly think Deshaun Watson's a creep.
Okay. I wouldn't have no problem with you because you clear on that. You stand on what you said.
And if somebody pointed up to me where I've been a hypocrite on this situation, then I would look at myself. But I don't think I ever have been.
But you haven't been a hypocrite. Yeah. So my problem is this. If you gonna sit up here and get on your soapbox and talk about all these other different people, I find it very funny that when there's people in position of authority, people that are signing your checks, because here's the reality. What's the name told us? Trotter. Mr. Trotter told us on this station. When he called out Roger Goodell and he said what he said about inclusion, guess what happened?
He got fired.
Yeah. So every one of them know what the game is, and they understand that. So if you're going to tiptoe around that, I'm not going to sit here and wait for you to drag somebody 2 years in a row. That's just it.
But you know what changes the narrative on all of this? Winning.
Of course.
That's it.
Of course.
Ben Roethlisberger, creep. I've called him a scumbag.
But boy, that will piss me off even more because it's like wherever you stand there. Just because we win, don't start speaking like in high standards of Deshaun Watson. Like I'm the type of person You show me who you really are. And the times like that. And I get it. Winning will cure everything. And I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about, I know where you stand. I know you, the person. Yeah. But it's like, it's people out here, they're going to all of a sudden change their narrative on the
100%. That always happens.
That's fake, man.
And I get it. I get that that's phony and fake, and there's people who jump on the bandwagon. But the thing is, and this is what, because for years I was always like, I don't want this guy. He's a bad guy on my team. I don't want him. And eventually I got to a point where I said, I have to be able to separate the person from the player, right? Like, if you ask me now, would I want my kid to hang out with Deshaun Watson, I'd say no. You ask me, would I want my kid to hang out with Nick Chubb, I'd say yes, right? And I don't really know. I don't know them personally, just based on my perception of who they are as people. And I could go, I wouldn't want my kid around Baker Mayfield. I wouldn't want certainly want my kid around a lot of other people.
Or back in the day when the Bengals had Vontaze Burfict,
Patrick Jones,
Henry.
I have crushed Vontaze Burfict. I think he's a horrible, horrible person.
But what I do as an individual,
Chris Henry's son is really good.
Yeah, Chris Henry went to Ohio State. I never looked at the rest of the team and was like,
right, and that I agree, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
And that would frustrate me at times too. But ultimately, I was like, well, what are you going to do? What they call the Bengals are a bunch of punks and this and whatever. It is what it is. That's when you make a trade for a guy with as much smoke as Deshaun Watson. And that's part of what you got to deal with.
And I always tell people, I said, if my mom talked to Deshaun Watson, she'd be like, oh, you was out of pocket. Like it's just what it is. At the end of the day, I think you're right, winning counts. Yeah. And I think that nobody in the national, see, sometimes you guys speak to your base, right? I'm not talking to, what's the name? Rich Eisen and Dan Patrick, they're going to be rich forever. Y'all will be fine golfing to the sunset, all of y'all. But sometimes, you got to talk to your base. I'm talking to the Cleveland Browns fans, bro.
I hear you.
Because at the end of the day.
And that's why you got a lot of reaction.
And we talking to the fans.
I get it. Fans are very sensitive about, but you know what? A lot of the fans that are mad that Deshaun Watson's getting all this heat, a lot of them were shitting on Ben Roethlisberger too.
Yeah, they were.
Which I got no problem with.
They was.
And I can tell you this, from where I stand as now part of the media versus when I was just a fan, I never had one bad thing to say about Big Ben, because how my father raised me, he's an entertainer. He's an athlete. You don't even know this man to really have an opinion. You just know what the media put out there. And you was always taught growing up, you believe half of what you read, half of what you hear, all of that. And so for me, I think not as a fan, but if I'm being honest, I am a little sensitive to it because I understand sometimes people do have an agenda. And sometimes when people make their mind up about something or someone without knowing all the facts, they can get a little disrespectful. I try to be the same way across the board,
right,
no matter who the person it is. And it just pisses me off personally that it happens sometimes.
But Earl,
I think that's okay.
Who's more likely to have an agenda? A Homer fan or a neutral media member?
Well, fans are fanatics to start with. Sure. They ride with the team.
And that's right. We're always going to defend our guys.
Right.
Even if they do the same thing as a guy we've shit on for 10 years. And maybe you don't bash Ben Roethlisberger, and that's fine. I have. I've been consistent. If there's, I bashed. We can go on and on.
But
Urban Meyer, his assistant, coach, what's that name? That scumbag there who beat up his wife. We could go on and on and on.
But there is a thing.
But the bottom line of this conversation for me was,
just win.
Win.
The poll. You don't care about the polls.
Are the Browns on paper capable of hanging with the best of the AFC? I believe so.
You just want them to prove it.
But they got to prove it before I'm putting them in that class. And it's the same thing with Watson. Because Watson, not because of just 6 games, because he hasn't played for 2 years. And so I can't put Watson at the moment in the top group of quarterbacks, even though I think he's capable of being there until he does it again.
So you're saying it's been such a long time since you've seen that level?
Yes.
That's a fair assessment.
That's all I'm saying.
Since you've seen it.
And if he does.
And now we hug and love. I was able to make a fancy trade where y'all were
Hey, listen. This started off with a poll question.
I think that was a very good conversation.
I negotiated
great
an entire
conversation.
fantasy baseball trade during the time that went on.
I
Negotiated it,
thought it was a
executed
good
it.
debate.
Hey, I do too. And it's football season.
Yeah.
It feel like
That makes
football
us more
season right
feisty.
now.
Football makes us feisty. Go ahead, Earl.
Great debate, unexpected debate, but that's what made the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show great. So we got 10 minutes left. We're going to make some changes. We're going to do our 32 and 32 with Cade York now, and then we're going to channel some things in the rundown. Overtime will now be the conversation that started in text about the work-life balance.
Oh,
of
I
the
can't
NFL.
stay for it. I'm out on overtime.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Why don't we stick with the fantasy? We'll do that another time.
Okay.
Because I would like that topic. I want to talk about that.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
work
yeah.
life-
We'll do that another time, but we're going to do the 32 and 32. Number 27 on the list is Cade York. Cade York is the superstar kicker of the Cleveland Browns because he got drafted pretty high.
He's a superstar?
He's not a superstar, but we hope he can become a superstar.
He went number 3 and all.
Is
man.
there
He
any
went number
kicker
3, you him.
superstar other than
Justin Tucker.
other than him?
Crazy. Tucker.
But you know what? Like the year the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, their kicker played like a superstar, and last year he wasn't as good.
Yeah.
But
But I would say
I think
he's better than Cade York.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But Cade York, I would put him higher in terms of the importance than 20. What do we have him at? 27.
I agree. I would put him like
Earl,
top
what
five.
is he? 27.
He's 27.
He's top five
I think
to me.
Man.
Oh, I don't know about top 5, but he's certainly not.
Every game that comes down to kicks, every game that comes, it's the NFL's decided by 3 points or less.
Yeah.
Kicking is so
in
important.
Cleveland and it's wind.
That's true.
And the league has never invested the resources into kicking that it warrants, that it deserves.
Think about it like this: Justin Tucker, probably behind Lamar Jackson, is the second most important. Because if Justin Tucker lines up for a kick,
if you get it to midfield,
It's
you got a
over.
chance. You got a chance for points.
Yeah.
that's crazy to me. Like, that's a nuclear weapon. If he gets past the 50, he could be on the logo, and
Yeah.
it don't matter.
I can't go top 5, Cade York. I can't
Oh,
make
I
myself
think
go
he
that
is.
hard, but I can go at
11.
least around 10.
I go 11.
Certainly way higher than 27. I think we'd all agree on that. And is it the most important guys? Is that what we're ranking him? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's the most important guy.
Yeah, I think you guys dropped the ball on this.
Yeah. I mean, he won you game 1. Think about it. The game you won
That's
you
true.
the
And
first
he
game.
lost you a lot of
and he
games,
lost
too.
you a lot of games, too.
It is amazing how often it comes down to the kicker.
It's 3 points or less.
It
All
really
NFL
is.
games. Not all. Quite a few NFL games. I had the stats at one point. I don't remember what
And
they are
extra
right now.
points now are not
It's-
gimmies.
Well, and that's
not a
why I
gimme.
get so
That's not
mad
gimmies.
when people say, well, it was a close loss. Who gives a shit? Most games are close. This is not college football.
Yeah.
Most NFL games are close. Blowouts in the NFL are the exception, not the rule.
You see somebody lose by 10, you be like, damn, they got blew out a little
Yeah, right.
bit.
right. A blowout in college is 50 points.
Yeah, yeah.
A blowout in the NFL is 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, two touchdowns, you
Yeah.
got smoked.
Yeah.
I like Cade. I think he's going to have a good year. I think the 1 year you have to go through it in Brown Stadium, you just have to go through it in December. There's no preparation. There's no weightlifting. There's no film to watch. When you're a kicker, you just have to go out there and do it. And now that he's been through it, hopefully he understands the wind. Even the Steelers kicker struggled early in his time at
Boswell?
Heinz.
Yeah.
Heinz Field is a hard place to kick. So you have to learn the wind patterns. You have to just and it can change. That's the fascinating part about talking to kickers. It can change like that.
You can just lose it.
Yeah, well, just the wind can change.
Oh, certainly, but the mental
sure.
game of the
Yeah,
kicker.
it is.
I mean, look at the Cowboys kicker. He was one of the best kickers in
Yep.
the league, and he fell apart down
Yep.
the end of the year,
Yep.
and now he's gone.
But just think, I mean, the wind can be blowing one way.
Yeah.
When literally on third down, you can look up one way, and when you get out there, it changes that fast.
Especially here in Cleveland
Yeah.
and just the North,
It's so
teams
much
in
harder,
general.
I think, than we realize of
Yeah.
why can't you just kick it straight?
Well,
the wind
and
is such
you
a factor.
think, like, why do these kickers not? I'm not saying Phil Dawson needs to be the Browns' kicking coach, but why don't teams have a kicking coach?
I don't know.
And
I
why
don't know.
why wouldn't you if you're Cade York? And I think I asked Phil Dawson this last year, and I don't think he did. If you're Cade York, why wouldn't you at least pick Phil Dawson's brain?
Oh, I'm pretty sure they did.
Did they?
I think that they did
Okay.
speak.
I thought he said no.
I don't know how often, but I think that they
The
did
Browns
speak.
should have. They definitely should have a kicking coordinator. If they got psychologists on the team,
right.
Team psychologists, why would you not have a team?
Every
kicking
team can
coach?
afford it. It's ridiculous.
And there are a couple throughout the country of like kicking coaches that work with a number of NFL kickers in the offseason or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm an NFL team they just spent $2 to $3 million probably to go to Greenbrier.
Right. Yeah.
hire a kicking coach. What's going to win you more games?
Yes.
A week at Greenbrier or a kicking coach?
Well, think about it. Like, we're all excited about what's his name? The Browns' new special teams coach. Bubba Ventrone, right? We all love the hire. Seems like he's going to be a great hire. What the hell does he know about kicking?
Nothing.
He didn't know anything about kicking.
Yeah.
Nothing.
He can't help the kicker or the punter.
We used to have
He
Dave.
can help the rest of the special teams. There should be, it's a no-brainer that there should be a kicking coach.
We never saw Dave Zasser deal. Like, we thought he was a quarterback. He was All-American at OU. And he used to just, he didn't even come over to the other side of the stadium. He would be in the regular stadium kicking, and we just see the ball going over the stadium. And that was it.
I was watching The Waterboy over the weekend. Have you guys seen The
Oh,
Waterboy?
yeah.
And you know how the kicker, who was like Adam Sandler's friend,
Yeah.
He'd be like, I'm going to work with the offense. I'm working the special teams. You go with Farmer Fred.
Yeah.
It's just the kicker. That's it.
Get over there. And that's exactly where it went down. Like, it was like, that's
They're in their own world, those guys, right?
Like, it's
Bull,
just,
what's the funniest line from the Waterboy to you?
I didn't watch the whole thing the other day. Man,
I like when he be like, my mama said.
Well, that whole scene with the professor in the class is. I like the two really weird looking dudes that sit in the stands, and then one guy just like rips on the other guy all the time.
Yeah.
that.
While we're talking movies, can
Yeah.
I hijack this since we got 5 minutes left?
Yeah, go ahead.
What is the appropriate age to show your son Major League in Bull Durham? I just had this conversation with some friends,
That's light.
some other dads.
That's light.
Because
my
of-
dad showed me the movie I'm About It when I was like 8.
Oh, that's
I think your kid's old enough.
Because there's
But
some
you just skip past the sexual stuff.
the sex, especially in Bull Durham, not so much Major League,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
especially
yeah.
Bull Durham. There's some
Right.
sex stuff in there.
Yeah.
Because I was just having this
Just-
conversation
but I
over the
think,
weekend.
is your son going to find Bull Durham boring?
Oh no, he would love like.
All the non-baseball parts, though, are a little boring for a kid, I think.
I don't know. I think the baseball carries it. The baseball stuff is so funny.
By the way, Tim Robbins looks so unathletic and not a baseball player.
I know.
I mean-
Because AJ just turned 13. I think we're gonna have a
Oh,
Major
he
League
can definitely
viewing.
watch it. You fast forward. Like, we watched, I had, my son and I watched Uncle Buck. Have you guys seen Uncle Buck?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Love that movie.
Yeah.
But, and you don't think about it, but there's a scene where this girl is, like, kind of being raped. He breaks into the room in time to stop
Oh
it.
yeah.
Remember that scene?
yeah.
Like, I didn't want my son to see that scene. You
Right.
wouldn't have thought about it.
Right.
Because at the time when we saw it, whatever. But, like, so I just fast forwarded past that scene. He doesn't care about that.
Listen, Bull didn't tell me I was watching the first season of Snowfall, and I was scarred for life.
Well, no, you
You
can't
didn't
kids
tell
watching
me.
that.
You didn't even
That's
tell.
it. By the way, the guy,
What?
the guy who plays his uncle. I was just saying. Do you watch Snowfall also?
Yeah, I watch it.
The guy who plays his uncle, I can't think of the actor's name, but he was awesome on that
killed
show, and I'd never seen him in anything else. And then I was just watching the show the other day, and now I can't think of the name. Oh, the new. So they did a so there was a show Justified, which was a great show, and they've brought it back. There's like a sequel. It's called Justified City Primeval, and this guy had a small. That guy had a small
I got a
role in it.
question. Anybody on the panel, raise your hand. Have you ever seen the movie He Got Game with Denzel Washington and Ray Allen?
Yes,
I think I saw.
Well,
it
I
a
saw it
long
when it
time
first came
ago.
out, and I had
So,
to
funny story. This movie came out in '98. In '98, I was 11 years old. I
was 22.
I have a grandmother who's really, really religious, right?
Yeah.
And every weekend, I would go spend the weekend with her, and we would go out to eat, and we would go out to movies. I've always been a sports junkie.
Yeah.
So when the previews came on, I just seen the previews, and I said, Grandma, I want to go see He Got Game. I'm sitting in the movie theater with my grandmother at 11 years old.
Oh my God!
Watching He Got Game.
Yeah,
It
that
was
wasn't
all
appropriate
bad.
for 11 years old.
Yeah, it was all.
I mean,
I don't remember anything about it. I'm pretty sure I saw it, but I don't
Yeah,
remember
he
anything
was
about it.
like he was. He went to. Was it college? No, it wasn't college. Yeah, he had.
He went to Lincoln High School, and his dad was in prison for killing his mother. And so the warden of the prison was a huge supporter of a particular college.
Right, so he got his dad out
He
of-
let him out
yeah.
on a work release program to try to convince his son to go to this particular school. His son goes to the particular school, but the warden never holds up his end of the deal.
yeah, big shocker. The warden's a scumbag.
Yeah.
Denzel's the best. He's good in everything.
He's just good in everything. I don't know, like
There was only one Denzel movie I've ever seen that I didn't like. His performance was fine, but I thought it was a bad movie.
Which one?
The Book of Eli.
I like the
didn't
book.
see
You like
that.
that?
I like
I
the
did not
book.
like that
I didn't
movie.
see that.
Did you catch the twist though?
I don't know if I even made it through the whole thing.
The twist that made it cold was
Yeah.
Eli was blind the whole time. I thought.
Yeah,
Spoiler.
that movie's old though.
It's older, but
remember-
he was blind the
Yeah.
whole time.
Okay.
So it was like he was.
I barely
He was
remember the
literally walking by faith.
Yeah. I don't barely remember it. I just remember thinking, I can't believe there was a Denzel Washington movie
Right.
I didn't
Remember Devil in a Blue Dress?
Yep.
Yes.
I don't remember anything about that movie other than the scene where he's got the woman and she
Yeah.
goes, "You hit my spot, you hit my spot,"
Mm-hmm.
and he like, narrates, "And I hit that spot all night."
Hey, speaking of
the only thing I remember about that
it's
movie.
almost time for overtime. On Netflix right now, it's this movie with Jamie Foxx. It's called They Clone Tyrone. Watch it.
I started it, and I got to get back to it. But on the preview, it's we'll talk about it later.
And you know,
I gotta go.
Ultimately,
I'll see you
unfortunately.
Thursday.
And you know they try to say